Ontario for the 1991 Labatt Brier. And it's all brought to you by Labatt's. Across Canada, beer at its best. And the sights and sounds of the Labatt Brier continue in the fourth round with our featured games, Saskatchewan and British Columbia. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to TSN's continuing coverage of this 1991 Labatt Brier. And now there's just one Linda Moore unbeaten rink, and that is Ontario, and that's Russ Howard, the former Canadian and world champion.
And they're playing very well, but I don't think they'll go through this week without a defeat. It's great curling. Tonight, looking really forward to Saskatchewan and BC.
Let's show you the standings heading into this fourth round of the Labatt Brier and show you Ontario all alone in first place at 3-0. And look how they bunch up now. Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, Newfoundland, Northern Ontario at 2-1, as well as Saskatchewan. Nova Scotia, Quebec, and the Territories 1-2, still winless, surprisingly. Gerry Mitchell from Moncton and PEI, Robert Campbell of Charlottetown. You go into this game, Saskatchewan, BC. Both these rinks, ironically, lost their opening round games, but have bounced back now with 2 straight wins.
Well, I talked to BC, and they said they just couldn't get the feel the first day. Probably a little bit of nerves, playing a very good team in Ontario. But I really look forward to it because they've got it. Both teams have got it on track.
Both these skips are rookies when it comes to Brier competition. Randy Woytowich of Saskatchewan, the Tartan Club in Regina, and Jerry Kent from the Cranbrook Club. And he's standing by with Ray Turnbull.
Jerry, you came here unheralded and unknown, but you must be very, very happy with your start.
Yes, we are. We certainly stumbled in our first game. I think we had a bad case of the first-time Brier jitters, but we've bounced back well in the next 2 games, and we're going really well right now.
Let's talk a little bit about the conditions, the ice conditions. You're in favor? You like the ice surface here?
Yeah, I think it's excellent arena ice. The weight is consistent. The rocks are swinging, so you can't play a finesse game.
It looks to me, too, that if you do get a bit of a lead, you can protect the lead because you can still peel very well.
That's right. It seems that once teams have got 1 or 2 points up, they have been able to protect the lead. So it's conducive to a hitting game as well, which is our strong point.
You're playing Randy tonight to Saskatchewan and Randy Woytowich, and do you have any special thoughts, any special game plan for him, or you just take it as it comes along?
Yeah, he's obviously curling very well. I think his average percentage is over 90%, so we're going to have to be at the top of our game, but we'll just try to play our own game, which is fairly simple, wide-open style.
Jerry, you have a little something to say hello to at home.
Yeah, I'd like to say hi to my kids, whom I miss very much. Stephen, Ian, David, Jenny, and Rachel. Hope to see you soon. And all the people back in Cranbrook, especially the Cranbrook Curling Club and the Brier Patch there.
Yeah, we understand they have quite a party every night during this 1991 Labatt Brier. So hello to everybody at the Brier Patch in Cranbrook. When we come back, it is an all-Western battle. British Columbia, Saskatchewan. It is Kent, Woytowich. Both rinks are 2-1, and you'll see it right here on TSN.
Wednesday, join the wave at Hamilton's Cops Coliseum as Canada's top skips vie for curling supremacy at the Labatt Brier. Host Rick Hodge takes you ice level for an in-depth look at the American Hockey League on ringside. Then catch up on all the latest news and features from spring training and sports dance. We've got exciting Brier action ringside and the spring training news and sports desk Wednesday on TSN.
The 1992 Labatt Brier comes to Regina's Agrodome March 8th to the 15th. For tickets and information, dial 1-800-667-1992. And we'll see you back in the heartland.
It's winter. Let the games begin. When the games are through, it's time for a blue. Labatt's blue. It's the way we play.
I know something about McCain Super Fries that you don't know. Yeah, what? They're low in Saturday fat. I know something you don't know, McCain Super Fries. Yeah, what's that? The Crystal Freeze. I know something about making super fries that neither of you know. What's that? I just ate the last one.
Oven-baked McCain Super Fries. Low in saturated fats, cholesterol-free, and loaded with taste.
Hi, I'm R.Howard. You know, there's a lot more to hockey than what you see on the ice. There's all those great behind-the-scenes stories and the lighter side of the game. So join us each week on Rinkside.
Here is the complete fourth-round draw of this 1991 Labatt Brier. Newfoundland against Manitoba, both those rinks 2-1. Northern Ontario against the Territories, Yukon Northwest Territories 1-2. Quebec against New Brunswick, Kevin Adams 1-2. Gary Mitchell 0-3. 0-3 for PEI as well against Nova Scotia 1-2. Alberta against Ontario, Kevin Martin trying to knock off the unbeaten Russ Howard. And our feature games, Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Saskatchewan with last rock, Red Rocks, as always in these draws, and so it is. The first stone and the British Columbia lead is Ken McCarg. The Saskatchewan would lead is 42-year-old John Grundy.
Well, it's kind of moving day out here, Vic. There's a lot of big games in Newfoundland playing Manitoba, and Alberta playing Ontario.
The British Columbia rink from the Cranbrook Curling Club. On the left is their 38-year-old skip, Gerry Kent. The third is Brian Colison. Tom Shipitka is the second, and Ken McCarg is the lead. And Ken wanted me to say a special hello to his dad, Elwood, in Edmonton. So hello from your son, and he's saying, hope you're feeling a little better.
A little more. Sorry.
Well, the ice is conducive to, good offensive curling, and I think what we've seen actually is all the teams not wait very long, and then they've really gone after each other in the early ends.
Ray, the Saskatchewan rink from the Tartan Curling Club in Regina. On the left is the 36-year-old skip, Randy Woytowich. The third is Brian McCusker. Wyatt Buck is the second, and John Grundy is the lead. And this is Mr. Grundy.
Wyatt Buck.
Yeah, you expect to see the slider on a pair of alligator cowboy boots. Or something.
How about Rotor Router?
Rotor Router.
The BC team really is playing better. I was talking to Brian Coliseum before the game, and he said that first game they just couldn't get it together. Either the weight was off or the line was off. But the last two games, obviously by the scores, they won by lopsided scores. They're playing much better. And they said they know they can even play better than that. They're just getting into this and feeling very comfortable.
Well, they'll have to play better to beat this green team. A little biter, obviously, Linda, and he's going to give it a hit. So Randy has decided not to try anything this first end.
Okay.
Did the trick.
What's Randy meaning by a little soft? What do you think he's saying there?
A little quiet.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe felt that he didn't throw it as much weight as they anticipated. Usually when you step to the sides like that, the 12-foot, you usually throw a little bit more weight, especially on those kind of shots. But he got the job done there. He obviously didn't really care if he stuck or not. He wanted to get it out of there.
The BC second, Tom Shipitka, owns a nightclub in Cranbrook called Jugheads. Said a few people will be watching there as well.
Fast track down there. Okay.
So this, Linda, is the true tuck delivery. It's the boom up over the shoulder. He tucks that leg right underneath him, and now he's way up high on the toe. And notice how the body's a little bit to the side. You know, that's one of the problems sometimes, you know, getting in directly in behind your stone. A little harder for the tucker to sometimes get in behind it.
You see some pretty pronounced tuck deliveries, and that is one almost to the extreme. I mean, the pressure on that knee and that leg would hurt.
As long as he's going to keep throwing it, Brian.
He does bend it kind of forward. It could even be worse if you turn it to the outside, you know.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, Ray, that I was talking to my husband who grew up in Winnipeg, and he had a thought about why tuckers started doing that. And he said when he was talking to people that they wore just street shoes to play, and the street shoe had a rubber heel, and that often they toed up so they were sliding on the leather part of the shoe, and the rubber heel didn't drag along the ice and slow them down. So that was one theory he had heard why it might have started. It was quite interesting.
We just played when I first started the game, we just played with ordinary shoes, and what we did was put liquid solder on the sole of our shoe. And that was the first kind of step towards sliders and things like that. And we weren't the first, of course. There was all kinds of people putting various things on their shoe, but we just wore street shoes and put liquid solder. Then we would take the horse and buggy to go to the games. And
Take your own rocks.
My own rocks, yeah. Watch the jam here.
You leave yourself open when you start.
I know.
I did very well. I bit my tongue.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Oh, dear.
So with curling, things evolved so quickly. It was Teflon was the surface on curling shoes for so long. That was about the only slider there was. And then they went to this red material, and now they're just stainless steel. I don't know what there is to go, but they'll probably come up with something new again.
I anticipate little motors in the back of your heel.
Little jets or something like that.
Wow, right off.
Probably get into some space-age carbon fibers or something next. Brian Coliseum, the BC third, makes the hit, sticks right there, full 12. Just in front of the tee line at 9 o'clock.
Brian McCusker. The in-turn hit. Keep it up. There's a signal. Make sure you keep your weight up now.
Okay. Come on, Brian. Let's roll.
Stick right there.
Whatever.
This seems to me to be one of the cleanest first ends we've seen.
Yeah, I think they both teams. You can see obviously that they decided when Randy hit that back stone that was just biting the back of the 12-foot at the 7 o'clock position. Obviously, he decided to play the end wide open. He's the one with last rock. So obviously Gerry isn't going to try anything in this first end. He doesn't have the hammer.
Gerry Kent is a lawyer in Cranbrook. The firm is Kent in Dearden. He was honest. He said, hey, I got those jitters, I got those butterflies. This is the big one for everybody. And they seem to be shaking their slider that first game against Ontario.
And I think if you stay, the longer you stay in contention, and the farther we go along in the week and around robin, the more that pressure builds. That's the wonderful thing about curling is that it's a game. Actually, I sat over the supper hour and had a long talk with Eddie Wernick, who's the world champion, of course, the reigning world champion.
Time and 3 or something?
He says it's such a mind game that's unbelievable, and this is the kind of thing that we hope that we can, we can explain to our viewers, especially those people who don't play the game. There's so much more than just throwing these stones up and down the ice. Is that a number or not?
He's the number one skip here in Hamilton. Well, you talk about that. Look at Gerry Mitchell from Moncton. how if he would have won that first game, that he let get away, he had a chance to win it in 10, then actually gave it to Nova Scotia, if I remember correctly, in a steal. I mean, his week may have turned around a little bit, have started off differently. Now he's 0-3.
No question, Vic. And, Gerry's curling in around 50% mark, and, he's a much, much, much better curler than
Questioning every shot, probably, every time he gets in the hack, and that's unfortunate, isn't it?
You have to be sort of thankful you're BC because the one bad game they had was the opening round. Well, you lost to Ontario. You know Ontario's going to play very well no matter when you play them in the week. So the one bad game is to a great team. You settle down, and now you've got the whole rest of the week to try and get it together and play everybody else. It's maybe not a bad way to start.
And you wonder also, Linda, if he played that bad or he was playing a top team that was playing very, very well. And a top team that have been, to a number of Briers.
Yeah.
Great off.
4, I believe, was it not, Vic?
Yeah, exactly.
Great off.
This is the final stone for British Columbia here in this first end of play. Saskatchewan does have last rock. It is the 4th round of the 1991 Labatt Brier from Copps Coliseum in Hamilton.
I've noticed a couple of people this week on these blank attempts just sort of push the rock into the boards because of the time clocks. But when the house is wide open like this, this is a benefit for Randy to find a piece of ice that he might not know as well and just throw it through and watch the line.
In this case, they're playing the wide out turn. Brush being held on the edge of the 8-foot. And they'll get a look at this out turn in case that shot crops up sometime during the game.
Zeros on the board in the first end of play, 4th round. 1991 Labatt Brier, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, both rinks 2-1. Woytowich and Kent.
Reggie, Lewis, roller coaster jam. Lewis, around the world jam. Reggie, reverse jam.
That's reverse jam.
That's Reggie, Lewis.
With White Swan serviettes, it's always a happy ending.
New from Quality Video. World Figure Skating Champion Kurt Browning for the first time on home video, including exclusive interviews, never-before-seen footage, and full-length World Championship performances. Featuring the story of the quad, Kurt Browning's Figure Skating First. An inside look at the high-pressure world of championship figure skating through the eyes of Kurt Browning, world champion.
Hi, I'm Graham Leggett. Every Saturday, TSN provides world-class excitement with live English First Division soccer. We also keep you up to date with scores, highlights, and standings from around the world. That's Soccer Saturday, every Saturday on TSN.
Update for you, Northern Ontario and the Territories. Final stone belongs to Rick Lang, throwing red stones. Shot stone is the stone at the 4-foot. Lang with the opportunity to score 3. Remember, he lost his 3rd round game after winning his opening 2. Maybe he's coming out a little angry in this one. Jumps all over the Territories and Yukon, 3-0 in the 2nd. Newfoundland 1-0 over Manitoba with last rock. He updated the Territories Northern Ontario game for you. Quebec, Kevin Adams with last rock gets 1. PEI Nova Scotia blank. Alberta last rock get the first point against R.Howard. And in our game, a blank in the first end. We go to 2. Saskatchewan still with last rock.
Well, once again, Linda, we really haven't seen anything here. They're just an exchange of stones. Just to go back to talk about Ricky Lang for a minute, in the Jeff Stoughton game this afternoon, and those viewers that may have been with us will remember that right in the very first end, Rick Lang went right after Manitoba. Now, things didn't work out for him, and he got down 2-0, but what he did in that particular end was he had the advantage of last rock. Red Rocks have the last rock all the time, and he went right after the opposition in the first end. He doesn't wait for anything.
What was interesting interesting is between games, Northern Ontario was actually out practicing. So was Kevin Martin, who might have felt in his last few shots he didn't throw as well. There's not a lot of time between games, so you have to give them credit. They went back out to try and get the feel back and maybe fix up a few alignment problems. They look like they're ready tonight.
Well, I mean, I guess in his own, I would think he'd admit Rick Lang did not have a good game in that third round. Just didn't make the shots we are accustomed to seeing him make.
Yeah, and they were, I think, almost as much as working out the crinks and their deliveries or anything, that helped. Linda, they were actually wanted to test the rocks a little bit. You know, they were playing on that sheet, and they wanted to make sure that they felt good about the stones. There was a little bit of a feeling that there may have been a stone on that particular sheet that they were playing on, one that's slower than the others. They wanted to make sure and test it, and that's what they were doing, and Kevin was doing the same thing. I found it interesting they both would go back to the ice like that, and so I asked them both.
The BC second, Tom Shapitka. And the two rinks continue to exchange stones just as they did in end number one. All right, here we go. Step right up. In last year's Brier, one player competed in all four positions. Can you name him?
What are you looking at me for?
We both turned to you, Ray, actually. I think I know which team it was, and I'm trying to think of the player now. Oh, I'll keep thinking about it.
Coliseum is a field supervisor for Kokanee Exploration.
Easy.
Oh, looks like a lot.
It's the top of the four.
I briefly mentioned the time clocks at the beginning. Of course, each team given 75 minutes. If the game progresses as it is with no rocks in play, it's not going to take them very long to play this game. I think if something happens soon, one mistake, the other team will start going for it.
I haven't seen anybody get really close. I just throw this up for discussion, but I think the time is good or should be reduced by a few minutes. I know it's been talked about.
No, I think the time is fine. I don't think that it's done exactly what it's supposed to do. I don't think you should reduce it at all. Then you have to give the players time to, to consider. I mean, we've seen in a game like this where you're saying up and down the ice, it's quick. But in lots of games, especially Vic, if they go ahead and change the rule a little bit, we're going to have a lot more rocks in play. Then you may need a little extra time for that.
Do you agree?
Totally agree, yeah. The purpose of the time clocks was to speed up play. It's done that. You don't want to have a penalty. The penalty being the team that runs out of time loses the game. So you don't want that sort of thing.
Boy, this is where concentration is so important. I mean, here in Hamilton, there are 5 other sheets, not the usual 4 that on all the previous Briers. So here is Brian Coliseum with his second stone, and he hears the cheering, and he hears the screaming, and he's got to take aim and let go of his second stone.
It's amazing, though, and I'm sure Linda would agree with this. When you're in a game like this, you're really so locked into your game, and each member has a responsibility to do it. We played one of our bars in Saskatchewan, and it was just absolutely jammed to the rafters, and it's like you're out there all by yourself.
Yeah, you're within yourself.
Yeah, you really are.
Actually, between games, somebody came up and asked me about distractions, and I said my biggest distraction in the game was when the other team made a great shot. I never noticed anything else, but boy, that kind of bothered me when the other team played well.
And that always bothered me too, unfortunately too much.
Good shot. Come on, B.
On most of the other sheets, we've seen lots of rocks in play. On this particular sheet, we've seen both skips have just made a decision to play pretty wide open. I think it'll change, though. You'll see someone make a move pretty soon.
Outturn.
Gerry Kent's playing the outturn. I was looking at the statistics, and the lead for Saskatchewan has not thrown an in-turn takeout in 3 games. He's thrown 32 takeouts, and he's thrown every one with the outturn. So there's a team with a philosophy of playing mostly with the one turn.
Hard! Hard! Turn up!
Gerry looks pretty calm out there, Linda. You know, he's as you mentioned, you know, and as I said earlier, he's never been to the Brier before, and he really, you know, came here, you know, not very well known. There's no question about that. It's certainly not knocking him at all, but he was a name that we hadn't heard a lot of, but boy, he looks cool to me out there.
I think they're really enjoying it now. The first day is tough. There's so much going on, and of course their first game was on television. That might have added a little bit to the excitement. But now they're loving every bit of it. Being at the Brier, playing in front of all these great fans.
No, just clean. Off. Clean. 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 Off.
First stone for the Saskatchewan skip, Randy Woytowich, as we play the second end. Scoreless.
Boy, he sure throws clean. Ooh.
A shade more, yeah.
He suggested in the first couple of rounds that he has to be more careful because he does start from that up position.
He has to be careful about lining up.
Yeah.
That's the key. I found it difficult because that's the way I start. I start in the up position as well because of my hack leg, but it just takes a little bit more time. He lines up. We'll watch him throw his last stone. He lines up very, very similar to the way Christian Storum, for example, the 1979 world champion, lines up. Takes a lot of time to place his foot in the hack. I believe all those things are important. I think curlers, Linda, are sometimes very casual about some of the mechanics of their delivery. And lining up properly is one of them, and the grip is another one. We'll watch Randy in the hack here. You'll see how he takes his time when he steps in behind the hack, almost like the golfer who steps in. And I believe also that you should approach the hack from the back. See him go in behind. And watch him place. He'll place his foot now. A little less ice, he says. Right beside it. Clean the rock first because he doesn't get down.
That's right. Many of the top golfers do approach their shots from the behind. That's right.
Watch him place his foot. Step back. Visualizes the shot, placing the foot very carefully. Now he starts in the trunk position, pulls the body, flat swing. Nice clean release. Looking for the blank. No, sir.
Well, both the last couple curled more than they thought.
Right on the nose, and Randy Woytowich in Saskatchewan will pick up one here in the second end. The 1991 Labatt Brier from Hamilton on TSN.
You've seen the fastest, most powerful aircraft in the world. Now, Time Life Video and Aviation Week put you in the cockpit with Air Power, the video library that lets you feel the thrust of taking off and the exhilaration of breaking the sound barrier. You'll tackle high G's as you pitch out and roll in a Tomcat and push the edge of the envelope on combat missions where there's no room for error. Call now to order your first tape, Flight Deck, for the special price of $14.99. Fly Mach 2 with F-14 fighter pilots considered to be the best of the best. Other volumes will follow about every 6 weeks for the regular price. Get an inside look at all of today's state-of-the-art aircraft. Call now for the best in aviation video, the Air Power Video Library. Roger that now.
To order Flight Deck Video, use your credit card and call 1-800-624-4900 or send just $14.99 plus $4 shipping to Flight Deck, P.O. Box 600, Station R, Toronto, Ontario.
They say you get what you pay for. At McDonald's, we insist on it. For your good money, you'll find just one offering here. good food. McDonald's, always good food, always good value.
Update, Quebec, New Brunswick, as they play the second. Quebec leading 1-0. This will be the final stone for the New Brunswick skip, Gerry Mitchell from the Beaver in Moncton. He get through here? Yeah, he did. Look at that. He waited a raise, obviously. He played the straight back raise for 2, so it's a 2-1 lead. Tough to see some of those stones. Newfoundland, Manitoba, as we play the second. Newfoundland leading 1-0. Final stone for Jeff Stoughton from the Wildwood in Winnipeg. Line 1 4-foot. Makes the hit, the inside roll. It'll roll too far, but you see that stone at the top of the rings? That little biter, that's the second point. Manitoba on the board, leading 2-1. Here are all the scores, still early. 4th round, Labatt Brier. We updated Manitoba for you. And Territories come back to get on the board against Northern Ontario. We updated New Brunswick. Nova Scotia steal of 1 to take the lead on PEI. Ontario still trailing. And on our feature game, Saskatchewan forced to take 1 as we go to the 3rd end of play. And we're at the Cops Coliseum for this 1991 Labatt Brier.
We really haven't said a lot about the building, Vic. This is a beautiful building. It really is. I can see why they so desperately would like to get NHL hockey. It's just a magnificent building, and I think it sits, what, 18,000?
Yeah, I think it's just a little shy, I think. You know, it's funny, this one...
Looks like it's here, Johnny.
This building, as well as Saskatchewan Place, where we just were, the people that run them will tell you they don't need hockey. It would be a great thing, but they don't financially need the hockey to make the building go.
That's great.
But it certainly is one of the nicest facilities in the country.
I think there's any way we could move this to Winnipeg, this building? Well, Randy having ooh, almost chipped it in. It'd been a great shot, Linda.
Just are some of the things about Cops Coliseum. It is a convention complex as well. That was the original cost, $42.7 million. $17.5 for hockey, $19,000 for concerts, $97 and change for curling, because they didn't want to sell the side seats up in the second tier. They sold the bowl, the lower bowl primarily, and the upper ends. But some people have moved into those seats just for a better view. But yeah, 97. And that was what we tried to stress in one of our reports on Canadian Curling Weekly, that in fact they weren't going to sell all 17,000, that people should buy their tickets and buy them early. And there you get an idea. The lower bowl is what they tried to sell first, and then the upper tier only in the ends. And of course, for the first time ever, 6 sheets of play, because Cops Coliseum can accommodate an Olympic-size icers.
BC looking for the hit and roll. It looks like it runs very straight with that particular spot. They're having not many troubles peeling off those guards. I thought maybe Randy would move the guards over a little bit and test out the other half of the sheet.
Bring it back.
They didn't want these in the house because it does allow BC the chance to hit and roll behind the guard, but they're sweeping this to try and bring it farther back, so if BC did get the roll, they might be behind the tee line, but that one ended just top 4.
Well, it gives Gerry Kent a chance, as you mentioned, Linda, to play the little hit and roll, and if you can get there is the indication. Thank you, Gerry.
The BC third, this is Brian Colison. Third end of play, Saskatchewan leading 1-0 over British Columbia, and BC does have last rock.
3. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Close. 3. Hurry! Hurry! Okay, Brian, good try.
told us, and he makes the Brier statistics as being the oldest curler here this week.
The oldest one playing, that's for sure. I'm not biting on any of those things anymore.
Okay. Plenty of line. Clean. Clean. Boy, B. Nice weight. Arm again, Brier.
Interesting. It's there for the taking, isn't it? The hit and roll, but nobody seems to want to buy.
What? One little more weight? No.
Well, on the last one, I think Brian was calling down not to sweep. It was a little hard to tell whose voice it was because it hangs on that center line, but if you don't sweep it early, it will break and it'll hit that rock on the nose.
Hurry! Hurry! Hard! Hurry! 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 Hurry!
A little bit.
My fault, Gerry says.
What have you got to do there to get that roll? You have to take a little more ice. Do you up your weight? What do you do?
Yeah, you take a little more ice and throw the same controllable weight. But I don't think you want to try and get the roll by upping the weight. Better off to throw the same weight, take a little more ice, and let the brushers control it. When you up your weight on shots, you really do take it to a certain degree. You take it out of the hands of the brushers. Usually the rolls are made by good judgment call by the holder of the broom and good brushing.
Nose hit's good.
Randy Woytowich is a supervisor with SGI Canada Insurance.
No. Clean.
You didn't have to talk shop with him at all. You happened to ask him how auto pack went? That's
good.
Our system in Manitoba is a little bit different from the other systems.
Still there? I guess we'll have to throw easy weight together. Yeah. So I'll cut my weight down.
Cut my weight down a bit.
Okay, I'll cut my weight down on this one because we need to get the right roll. That's not the straight spot out there, too. I don't think it's going to move very much.
If you haven't been with us so far here in Hamilton, you should know, and is that Gerry can't beat Linda's husband, Al, and you were talking with him earlier today. Is he recovered, or put that behind him and say, well, that's just the game?
Oh, certainly.
Or does he look at this and say, gosh, just one game and I could have been here?
Well, everybody does if they lose the provincial finals. They get so close, but Gerry played very, very well in the provincial finals, and he's deserving of being here. And Al, when I talked to him the other day, he passed on his best wishes to the team.
That last shot was very interesting, Linda. He stepped, he actually threw a little less weight, but they're over in a different spot. Took a little bit more ice.
He's going to break a lot more than that.
And in attempting to get the roll, he missed it completely. Now, didn't have a great look at it, but it almost looked like it fell back a bit. So we'll kind of watch that out-turn spot down there as we go through the week. Or through the game, I should say.
Well, Gerry's got a very straight out-turn. If he pushes it at all, it's going to run very straight.
I know we're starting to get some movement with the out turn, but I don't know what that in turn is going to do. You think it's going to move a little? Okay. I can start it a little late. Okay.
Now, what he means by that, Dick, is that to get the movement, I can start it. In other words, as he releases, you come out a little bit full of the broom of the target, and then you start it over.
The one, if nothing else, eh?
And what we mean by that is you kind of get it started, roll it over a little bit, and get it started. So it'll start to curl immediately.
Does that suggest that the ice is straightening out a little bit?
Well, it may be. If you remember, let's go back to Chicoutimi. Remember the first three draws in Chicoutimi? We had lots of action in the ice, and then all of a sudden by Wednesday it straightened up.
Line's good. Just for weight. Line's great. Yeah. Yeah. Hooray! Come on. Hooray!
John Grundy Wyatt bucked the front end of the Saskatchewan rink. Oh, and they'll just bite the top.
Get a biter? Good sweep. Not quite there that side, eh?
Well, this makes it a little bit interesting for BC. If they hit the rock that shot rock, they won't be in the rings, and they'd give up a steal.
It's pretty tough.
He knows that one. Got one.
Yeah. I think we just have to draw.
You have to draw. The rock is forcing to draw. It's just too dangerous to play the hit. You could make the double, but...
No, just draw.
Well, they just put the broom on the center line. They're going to play the draw. The way the outturn ran down there, I would think this is move over then, okay. Where the brush was, it looked to me like he was going to play the in-turn draw because the outturn ran so straight. So he's moved the brush over now to the other edge of the button. He's going to draw the outturn side and try and catch it around 3 o'clock someplace. There's your broom, and there's your thrower. His outturn.
Brian Coliseum holds the brush for his skip, Gerry Kent. And the final stone.
Have a look. Ball right off. Clean it. Ball right off. Right off.
And he'll draw the back of the 12 for his single point. And so British Columbia on the board in the third end to even this game. Gerry Kent and his rink from the Cranbrook Curling Club tied now with Saskatchewan. And Randy Woytowich from the Tartan Curling Club Regina 1-1. Both these skips in their first Brier appearances, but both of them veterans of the Gold Trail in the West. An update for you, Alberta, Ontario. A final stone for Ontario's Russ Howard as he plays Alberta and Kevin Martin, third end, 1-0 Alberta leading. 1 stone out in front. Ontario lying 1 on the button. This is the draw for 2 for Ontario. Full 4 foot. All right, says Brother Glenn. Ontario with a 2-1 lead after 3 ends of play. We're at Cops Coliseum in Hamilton, the 1991 Labatt Brier.
Could have been the whiskey, might have been the gin. Tell me, oh, my, wasn't that a...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Irish Rovers.
She's my joy and my pride, and she's 20 meters wide, and I call her the ship, the funny lady. Johnny, get up on the fire, get up and give me your maddest hit. Can't you see it's Mick McGuire and his 4-year sister kid?
They've delighted audiences worldwide with their musical tales, and now you can get the Irish Rovers' Greatest Hits, a silver anniversary collection.
What would you do if you married a soldier? What would you do with the butt of the gun?
And me heart is captivated by the flower of sweet Strabane.
No Irish Rover collection is complete without this international blockbuster hit.
You'll see green alligators and long-necked geese, some humpty-back camels and some chimpanzees.
The Irish Rovers' Greatest Hits, 25 years of musical magic on 2 LPs or 2 cassettes, $14.99. 1 compact disc, $19.99. Here's how to order. To save COD charges, use your credit card and call toll-free 1-800-453-2900 or send check or money order for $14.99 for LPs or cassettes or $19.99 for 1 compact disc plus $4 shipping and handling to Irish Rovers, P.O. Box 600, Station R, Toronto, Ontario, M4G 4E1. That's 1-800-453-2900.
You won't miss a thing. PEI, Nova Scotia. Third end action, Nova Scotia leading 1-0. Final stone, Robert Campbell, Charlottetown Curling Club. He has one at the back of the 4, biting the back of the button. Now the quiet little tap back. Go, 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 go. Oh, lovely. It'll be enough for his 2 points, and PEI leads 2-1 after 3. Newfoundland, Manitoba. It's 2-1, Manitoba leading as they play the third. Final stone for John Boland and his rink from the Gander Club. Line 1, back 4, open draw for 2. No mistake for the skip from the Rock, and they're on top. It's 3-2 Newfoundland as they go to the fourth end of play. Nearing the halfway part of this fourth round, Labatt Brier, Northern Ontario. Ricky Lang has come back with 2 more in the third to lead 5-1 over the Yukon Northwest Territories. That's our feature game as we go to the fourth, tied 1-1. A blank in 3, New Brunswick. Gary Mitchell leading Kevin Adams from the Glenmore in Montreal 2-1. We showed you PEI's 2 by the Charlottetown rink. And also, you got to look before commercial, Ontario scoring their 2 against Kevin Martin of Edmonton.
Well, Randy's waited long enough. He's got the advantage of last rock again back in this end. Terry Kent having a draw for his single. And now the corner guard. The guard placed out in front of the rings in an attempt to try and get something behind it. You can defend against this corner guard by taking it off, as Gerry is doing, by putting up your own centerline guard, or by going around it. If you do go around it, you must make sure you keep it short of the tee line. And this is the peel.
Saskatchewan with last stone in this fourth. And this is the Regina second, Wyatt Buck.
Looks like the ice might be keening up a bit. BC had one slide through, and this one's sliding very close. Yes, I think it'll be in.
Well, it's a good shot for Gerry and not so good for Randy. He was looking for the corner guard, hoping to get a nose hit of some nature. And what this allows BC to do, Linda, is play in the rings, and that's where they would like to play. They don't want to have the last stone in this end, so they'd like to keep the play in the circles.
Brian Coliseum.
Here's a good look at the ice surface, and as Linda mentioned, you can see the slide path kind of flattening it a little bit. It's pretty slippery down there. A little bit of a frost buildup on the outsides, just a wee bit. Haven't heard any complaints, or it hasn't seemed to have caused any problems yet, Linda, but it'll be interesting as the week goes on.
You know, I mean, it's really curious. You've already said that all the other sheets have got lots of rocks in play, and this just seems to be a game or a sheet that is a lot cleaner than the others.
And it may be that this particular sheet may run a little straighter. You know, each of the sheets are different.
Yeah. Brian McCusker.
And he's going to try and come around this BC stone, and it's very tight to the ring, so they have to make sure they get it by, and then they have to hope that it'll break hard at the end.
Line's good. Yeah, hurry for line. Hip, hurry, hip, hurry, hurry hard, hurry, hurry hard, hurry.
There's a great look at those sweepers.
Okay, Brian.
Well, in an attempt to get his 2 points and take a little control of this game, you could see Randy was coming around a rock that was just to the top of the 12-foot, so.
Sean Grundy and Wyatt Buck getting a workout as they tried to brush that stone by.
Now, if BC can hit and roll away from this spot, they may be able to force Saskatchewan to have to take a point this end because they can lie 2.
Brian Coliseum with his second stone.
Okay, good try.
Randy doesn't think it's in. He went and took a look at it. It's going to hit the outside one, try and roll in behind it. But even if he does that and gets buried, the run back on BC can run her own stone back very easily.
Whoa! Wow! Right off. Right off. Don't even look at it. Okay, go ahead. KB.
Live update for you, Quebec, New Brunswick, with New Brunswick leading 2-1 final stone. Kevin Adams, Quebec in the fourth, and it looks like he's in lots of trouble. Looking for a triple here, is that possible? Or just cutting him down? He didn't cut him down. Well, he got one out of there, so it's a steal of 2 for New Brunswick, and so they'll lead at 4-1, and Gerry Mitchell still looking for win number 1. Was a triple possible there?
I think so.
It's hard to tell from the lineup, but boy, when you're going for a triple, you know that you've got in a bit of trouble that end, especially you're already down a point.
4-1, New Brunswick leading Quebec as they go to 5.
Well, it was a good roll by Brian McCusker. He rolled right across the rings.
Gerry's had a few problems with his out turn, putting them back a little bit.
Whoa! Yep. Come on.
This one sounds like it's well released.
Whoa.
Right on the nose.
We're assuming that the front stone is out. Randy went and took a look at it. If it wasn't out, he could have played the double. Very simply.
Yeah, it looks like it's out by a little bit.
We'll leave it to Dick to decide.
Thank you. Remember, we all got caught in Saskatchewan. In fact, that was a point of turnaround for Sandra Peterson in that game. Remember?
Yeah, but in all defense to all of us, including Sandra, the rock was looking in on the circles. It was that the circles were not painted quite to the size they should have been, and that's really tough when you're playing a game, and it's important to know whether that rock is in. You're not allowed to measure during an end, so there's only one way of telling, and that's by looking at it with your eyes.
The first stone for the Saskatchewan skip, playing end number 4 in a 1-1 tie with BC.
Randy's played this very quietly.
That's why he has, I think that's another reason why Randy, a lot of the people that play this, the quiet game so well, have a great feel for draw weight, because they never very often move far away from it. A lot of the top skips, the touch skips, very seldom will go to the very big weight. And, there's exceptions to that, of course. A guy like Woytowich who can throw the big, strong weight, then drop right back and find it quickly. But
a little farther in, but
a lot of skips like to stay somewhere around it.
Lightweight. I'll be firm.
Be firm, he says.
Oh, off.
Straight off. Good, Gerry.
And he was.
So Saskatchewan will look to blank this 4th end of play, maintain control of last rock, going to end number 5 in this 1-1 tie. Both these rinks with records of 2-1.
No. Wow. Clean. Yep. Hurry. Okay.
Makes the hit and rolls the shooter out. And it looks like Brian Collison, the third for BC, has called for the stick just to make sure that that one at the top of the 12-foot is indeed out of play. A heck of a gamble, Randy, if it wasn't.
Well, it looks so far out. I think they've probably checked the circles before the game started.
They were dead perfect, so.
Well, there you go. They did check them once.
Actually,
yeah, it is
halfway into the blue.
yeah, listen, better check it. It remains a 1-1 tie. Fifth end when we come back to Cops Coliseum in Hamilton.
It's winter. Let the games begin. When the games are through, it's time for a blue. Labatt's blue. It's the way we play.
This is Jay. Jay doesn't say much when he's enjoying his McCain Super Fries. And he doesn't seem to care that Super Fries are cholesterol-free and low in saturated fats. McCain Super Fries, deep-fried flavor and crispness from your oven. For the strong, silent type.
The Canadian Hockey League interrupts your winter with a little color. Hey, that's not color. We now return you to your regularly scheduled winner, the Canadian Hockey League. Catch the stars of tomorrow. Today.
This is the Brier patch. Lots of people stay in there. Never see a rock live. Newfoundland, Manitoba, 3-3 as they play 5. Northern Ontario, 5-1 over the Territories. New Brunswick, Gerry Mitchell in control, leading Kevin Adams of Montreal. Nova Scotia's come back with 1 to tie PEI, going to 5. Ontario with their 2, leading Alberta. And that's our game, 1-1 as we play the 5th end. And we've had 2 blanks out of 4 ends of play. Saskatchewan with last rock advantage, and this is the BC second. This is Tom Shipitka.
Three. Right off. Gotta move.
This looks familiar.
Yeah, it does. A couple of times they've been calling on these takeouts right off, and that scares me a little because we have seen, especially last week in Saskatoon, some debris on the ice, and if the rock ever caught the debris, you wouldn't even make the takeout, even if you're only on half the rock. It would actually catch something maybe and take off and miss everything. So at club play, be a little careful when you say right off. Often keeping the rock clean is a good idea.
Well, they're moving this around the sheet, but nobody's really prepared to make much of a move, Linda. A little cat and mouse going on here. Each of the teams waiting for a break, waiting for the wide open miss that will give them the extra point, the control point that we talk about so often.
Tom, the left-hander in this game. As a skip, Linda, then I realize it's different turns, but left is in as opposed to out, or rights and left. But I mean, as a skip, do you have to call a left-hander differently, or is it just the same kind of thing?
It's similar, actually, for any player. There'll be a slightly different release, so you have to learn your players, learn what they do when they let go of the rock, and broom everybody a little bit different. Nobody's perfect at throwing the rock, so you do the best at icing somebody for the way they throw the rock.
Actually, Vic, what I've decided to do with your delivery is to teach you to throw both left-handed and right-handed, and that way you'll only have to throw your in-turn, because I took a look at your out-turn.
Thank you.
Actually, when I was explaining to somebody that the out-turn often goes straighter than the in-turn, they asked me that. They said, well, why don't you just throw with both hands, and then could play whatever turn you want? And it sounded like a good suggestion, actually, at the time.
Have you tried to throw with the opposite hand, Linda?
I have so much trouble with the one.
Yeah, me too. But I tried to teach myself to throw with both hands just so that when I was teaching, I could demonstrate to the left-hander. You know, and,
that's great.
It's difficult when the knees and legs were a little bit more flexible. A number of years ago, I could do it pretty well, actually. Not well enough to throw in a game or anything, but
no. Well, I just bring Lindsay Sparks along if I ever am teaching.
Oh. Hey, right.
All right. In last year's Brier, one player competed in all 4 positions. Can you name him, Linda?
Well, I did remember because I thought back to Alberta having played and maybe not playing as well as they wanted during that event, and they did jockey the positions around. And it was Dennis Balderson of Alberta. Did you remember?
No.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, I was trying to think. I thought it might be the Quebec team. I thought it might have been from last year because they had that 5th player and they were rotating people through. And I'm not sure if Kevin skipped all the games, but they did rotate people. And I was trying to think if it might be one player from that rink, but it wasn't.
No, they had a set rotation, and the people either played, for example, third or skip. They didn't follow through all the positions. Well, here's an interesting change. We did get a guard up, and it's third's last rock for BC, so they're going to go in behind the corner guard.
Sorry.
Coliseum. Interesting, if I remember his biographical information correctly, he only started playing some 14, 15 years ago, so
Come on, hurry!
that would have been his mid-30s.
Well, it came up a little bit light. Here's a great chance for Saskatchewan. We haven't seen many Roxham play, and now there's 2 corner guards.
Yeah, and that edge of the 8 is really covered, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, they can really come behind that and be buried.
Well, a little something in front of it so they can get in behind it.
We've seen a few advantages, though, Ray, throughout the first 4 ends, and rinks failing to get the hits and rolls and capitalize. This is Brian McCusker.
We got room. Just for weight. We got lots of room. Plenty.
The break is late, so they're really working hard now.
Come on.
That got by the guard by quite a bit too, Linda. So you're right, there's a pretty big break. It came very late. Standing down behind the sheet now, you can see half of the stone. I'm standing right in behind the hack at this moment, so you can see half of it.
A 1-1 game on the scoreboard, and not much to choose between the 2 skips so far. We played 4 ends.
The only thing Gerry can't do is over curl, because he'd leave up the 1 guard and he might roll over to the other side and give Saskatchewan a chance to come around the back guard.
Down a bit.
They got it, I think. They're by the guard.
And the shooter will stop around 10 o'clock fighting the edge of the 4-foot, and they still had a lot of room, even with that weight, to get by the guards. Still a couple of inches.
They did, but the sweeping really held it up. So they got on it early, held it up, got the nice roll way across to the other side of the sheet.
The nice part about that shot by Gerry was that he rolled to the other side of the 4-foot, so it really is a tough roll back behind those corner guards.
The first stone for the Saskatchewan skip, Randy Woytowich.
The contrast in the different weights the two skips play with, Linda, is kind of interesting. Gerry throws a much more up weight, and Randy throws a very control weight.
Should snap pretty good there. The out turn straight in that spot.
It seemed like Randy was content to sit right there, but Gerry would like to get the roll, so he's decided to play the other turn because the out turn is so straight. It would be very difficult to broom yourself for the roll.
Walk over pretty good, so I'll be firm. Try to get the roll.
Saskatchewan with last rock, got the blank in 1, picked up 1 and 2, BC 1 and 3, and a blank in 4. That's why we're playing 5 in a 1-1 tie.
Right off. Close. Right off. Right off. Ball.
Will the shooter hang around? No, it'll slide out of play, and so we'll look for another blank here in end number 5, and those two corner guards, while they look good, just weren't able to use them.
That was a lot of weight for that hit, because if Gerry was a little outside, it sounded like he might have been when he let it go. You just have no help. The sweepers can't do anything for you. All you can do is watch it go down the ice.
The final stone of the 5th end. And Randy Woytowich will just play it through. This time he looks at the other side. So now he's got to look at both in-turn and out-turn into the 12-foot. Blank in 5. It remains a 1-1 game. British Columbia, Saskatchewan. It's the 4th round of the 1991 Labatt Brier.
Chasing you? That could mean a couple of things.
Oh, my husband, Mr. Freud, is analyzing dreams.
Not analyzing, but my book talks about dreams like yours.
Ben Randall, referring to Mysteries of the Unknown, the Time Life series that sold over 14 million books.
Dreams and dreaming. You, of all people, think dreams mean something?
Well, I may be coming around a little.
Well, what do you think my dream means?
It's right here. A dream that you're being chased could mean a feeling of guilt and a fear of being caught.
Guilt? What else could it mean?
Read the book. Ever had a dream come true?
Never. Who has?
Sarah Allgood. In a dream, a friend said, "Have you found my gift from the grave? Look behind the picture." So Sarah looked, and there it was. Turned out to be worth over $1,000, too.
There what was?
Well, read the book.
Call and order now. Read Dreams and Dreaming free for 10 days. Keep it and pay just $16.99. Other volumes will follow, one about every other month, including Mystic Places, Psychic Powers, and Phantom Encounters. Keep only those books you want. Cancel anytime.
Oh, I don't know if I can get back to sleep now. You know what? Some of that pie, maybe a la mode, might help.
Okay. You get the pie, and I'll read the book.
Membership in some clubs can involve some rather strange rituals, like secret handshakes, interesting fashion statements, and certain tests. But when you join the Sears Club, all you have to do is use your Sears card to collect points.
Points that can be redeemed for almost anything in the store or catalog. As a result, Sears Club members tend to have little rituals as well. Welcome to the club.
Welcome back to Copps Coliseum. Fourth round coverage of the 1991 Labatt Brier. And a reminder to stay with us right after the game for the TSN Turning Point. And it's brought to you by National Trust. We're in the fifth and break of our featured game in this fourth draw, Saskatchewan and British Columbia, and Ray is standing by with the Saskatchewan skip, Randy Woytowich.
Randy, we got a bit of a pitcher's duel going out there.
Well, the ice started, must have put a little firmer pebble on it. It's taken us a while to break it down, and the rocks weren't bearing really well, so you know what that means. You throw them and hit them for a while, and it's starting to go now, so I think we'll probably see a few rocks in play in the second half.
Yeah, we kind of, you know, I kind of noticed that I was going to ask you that, actually. The ice is running a little straighter than it was earlier in the day, for example.
Yeah, it usually starts like this, but we're able to break it down almost after practice, or for sure in the second end, and it took us about 4 ends. It started to finally go in the fifth end here, so I think we're going to see few more shots.
You make a little move now. In a game like this, it's a little bit, you can be a little nervous because if you get a bad break and you get through, you know, the later ends, you don't have a chance to come back, kind of.
Well, that's what we're just waiting for it to go, because, yeah, you don't want to fall behind 1 or 2 if it's running that straight, but like I said, it's starting to curl a little bit, and I think given the opportunity, we're going to try something.
Good. Thank you for joining me, Randy. I think you'll see some moves by both the skips, Gerry and Randy, in the ends coming up thick.
Yeah, I think so, if they in fact did pebble it a little bit more than usual. We're in the fifth end break, and all the sheets are quiet except for one. That's Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia as they play. Let's update you on the scores. Newfoundland and Manitoba, it is a 3-3 tie after a blank in 5. Northern Ontario continues to lead Rick Lang in front of the Yukon Northwest Territories. In the White Horse Rink, it is 5-2. There's our game. Lots of blanks in the first, in the fourth, and fifth ends. It remains a 1-1 game. Quebec and New Brunswick. Problems for New Brunswick as they trail. Our last count was 4-1. There's the PEI game as they start the sixth end of play. Robert Campbell of Charlottetown looking to win his first. He has dropped his first 3 games. Alberta and Ontario in a 2-2 tie. Kevin Martin of Edmonton. And Ontario's Russ Howard. And no, this handsome gentleman is not Ray Turnbull. Eddie Wernick, the former Canadian and world champion, joins us, and we're glad to have you here. A little sore you're not?
Thanks, Vic. I'd rather be curling, obviously, but
sure.
A lot of people give me condolences this week, and I have to remind them that I've been to 8 Briers, and it's enjoyable to attend as a fan, too.
Well, I tell you what, you got quite the standing ovation when you were in here. You walked in during the opening ceremonies to present the tankard, and it was nice to see the response. You've done a lot for the game, and the people, I think, appreciate that.
It was kind of an interesting thing because, you know, at that time I was still feeling sorry for myself and all that, and wasn't sure I wanted to be here. But when I stepped on that ice, it really renewed the fires, and I can't wait for next year. Maybe we'd pass on the golf season.
You've had a great season, though, Ed. We were in Europe with you, and you've had some great bonspiels over the course of the year.
Absolutely. You know, John Kawaja shed a little light on that. He says, we don't have too much to be disappointed about. We've had a terrific year. And it's turned out very nicely other than for the tankard. But like I said, I've been in 8 of these. I feel very privileged to have that opportunity to play. And I'm just looking forward to another great year next year.
Any thoughts on this Brier compared to the ones that you've been in?
Well, I think the ice conditions are excellent. The teams are so, you know, qualified when they start peeling. They'll find a way to peel when they get ahead. And the front ends are so much better. I think it's, I guess personally, in a bit of a selfish mode, I'd like to see the modified mountain roll just to see a little more excitement.
Coming into this Brier, the field inexperienced for the most part. Some people were saying, well, what kind of Briers are going to be? Was that an unfair assessment, or is this The fact that you have to get here, it's still a Brier field. This is the best in our country. Is that what we should look at?
I think in my own words, I called it an unknown field because I've only curled, I think, out of the 12 teams, I've only played about maybe 3 of these teams. But in all fairness, obviously to win a provincial championship and compete in Labatt Brier, you have to have talent, and they're very talented teams. Unfortunately, what happens on your first trip to a Brier is very difficult to win it, and experience plays a big factor.
Yeah, well, I know Ray and Linda are great believers in this as we get ready to play here in the 6th end of a 1-1 tie, Saskatchewan and BC. The ice, are you impressed with what Marcel DeWitt, the ice maker, has done?
Yes, very much so. I think you'll find, too, as Marcel gets a little braver as the week goes on, I think he'll experiment a little more, and we'll even see a little more swing.
British Columbia lead is Ken McCard.
Eddie, it seems that, you know, as you mentioned, it's tough to win your first Brier. It seems that the first 2 or 3 games of the Brier, you don't feel too badly, but as the Brier goes along, as the round robin goes along and the pressure gets a little greater, I think that's when the experience of having been in a Brier before really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think you'll find by the time the round robin's over that teams like Russ Howard and Rick Lang and maybe a team like Randy Woytowich or there'll be one young upstart in there somewhere, but the experience will definitely show because of having been in the situation before and controlling their nerves as the week goes on.
In this game we've got going here, Randy mentioned he thought that maybe they had put a little heavier pebble on before the game started, and it's taking a little longer for it to break off because there hasn't been the movement that we've seen that we saw earlier this afternoon, Eddie.
Yeah, I think you'll find that Marcel is probably experimenting just a little bit, probably to see how quickly it wears off, because I'm sure he's expecting a larger crowd as the week wears on.
The thing that you kind of hope doesn't happen, and you can remember this very well because we had some great games in the early part of the week at Chicoutimi, but by about Wednesday it really did straighten out a little bit and we couldn't get anything going, and as a result the teams that you know, like the offense, like yourself, really are penalized a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that happening here, actually. Right now, there's just barely enough movement from the edge of the forefoot to go around the button, but you can still bury in front of the T-line, and if that disappears, then we'll be back to that situation where the peeling will become the dominant part again. I think you're even seeing it now, even a change from yesterday. Some of the teams are starting to get one up and starting to control the game already, but with their peeling abilities.
Well, that's the thing that you and I talked about over the supper hour too, Eddie, is that, you know, even on the good ice, the teams, the front ends in particular, are so good at being able to control the upweight and control that upweight and get the corners of those stones, and with the little added handle that some of them use, they get lots of action on when the stones make contact. So it really is easy to you know, to run a game and protect the 2-point lead, and I agree with you. I think that we should definitely be looking very, very hard at the possibility of making some change to just keep the offense in the game, that's all.
Yeah, you know, these people are very talented, and with the new sliders and all the you know, the leg drive that everybody's been teaching, including yourself, they're listening a lot better now. The teams are using front-end players that are formerly skips or are willing to play as front-end players, and they're better as a team as a whole. They get together, they work a little hard at the game because they know success doesn't come easily. And as far as changes go, you know, I think we have to have them. I had an opportunity this year to play a modified mountain rule on at least 20 occasions, and it's just terrific.
And all of Canada was very proud last year when you captured the World Championship. The winner of this event will go on to the Worlds in Winnipeg. Any advice for the team that will be in that event?
Well, I can tell you one thing. If these ice conditions are equal to the ones in Winnipeg, the team that comes from Labatt Brier has a definite advantage. Apparently, they've sold in the neighborhood of 10,000 tickets for the week in Winnipeg. It'll be a terrific show, and the team that proceeds from here should be ready to play.
It certainly wasn't an easy task, though. It used to be that Canada would kind of look at the World Championships as a way to get another title. But those teams in Europe work very hard at their game.
Yes, they've taken the incentive and initiative. I had an opportunity to speak in Switzerland, and I complimented the Swiss and the teams that were in Switzerland on their education. They've learned to play this game. They technically, they probably throw the rock even a little better than most Canadians. They're very athletic and very talented. They just have to learn that curling is a team game and strategy plays a very important part. You know, when Ray mentioned the peeling part, it's not only the fact that the teams can peel here, it's the fact that they give you the impression that they're going to peel to the 10th end, and because of that, they may force you to make an aggressive move that you may regret.
We're in the 6th end of play, Saskatchewan, BC, in a 1-1 tie, and this is the BC third, Brian Collison, and they continue to play it very clean.
Well, it's been another end of just up and down. You heard Randy say at the 5th end break that he thought that there'd be a little movement by, by both he and Gerry to try and get something going. Obviously, the team with the hammer is going to make the first move.
I think the day is gone where the team used to just go up and throw the center guard and, sort of dare you, but because even getting a center guard established doesn't always guarantee you a steal anymore because the teams are so good at drawing. Everybody has the impression that they're peelers, but they can turn right around and throw that great draw shot to the forefoot. So the team with the hammer has such a big advantage in the game today. When we played back in '83, we always felt that you tried to take the opportunity to score a deuce early in the game and control it that way. Now it seems like even at this situation with Saskatchewan and BC, with the hammer, they think that they can intimidate the team to make a move.
But we had made the point early in another draw to suggest that because the ice moves and there is some swing to it, that in fact if you fall behind that you're not as concerned as if you were on straight ice.
That's true.
That the ice will maybe give you a chance to come back.
It may, but as you can see, teams are maybe peeling as much as 34 or 35 or even 40 rocks in a row without almost fearlessly. They're and then if they don't make the perfect peel, they still feel they can make that come around, tap and roll in the open and control the game in the house. So it's a twofold thing. I think if you noticed yesterday, there was a lot of rocks in play almost in every sheet. And I think everybody's just trying to get comfortable. Where today it sounds like everybody's found their feet in there.
Oh yeah. Well, in fact, Gerry Kent said, he's as you suggest, he had to get a little experience. He was nervous, and he admits that in that opening or against, and especially as he's playing Russ in his first game. So.
Sometimes the nervousness, I think it's almost compulsory. I would be very concerned if a person came out here in their first Brier and in the first game, if they didn't show nervousness, then they're probably not human beings.
That's right.
Yeah. There was some talk about the rocks here, and it seems like the rocks are running very well. We all know that rocks aren't all exactly the same, and there may be some ones that run slightly slower or curl a little more, but it looks like these ones are very good.
I've had the opportunity to play with these rocks on many occasions, the Moncton 100, the E3 Brier, and our provincial championship. They're probably the best set available for arena ice, other than the ones in Sault Ste. Marie last year, but when the committee here tried to get those rocks for this Brier, they had a meeting and they decided they wouldn't rent them out, and it's probably a good choice. Good rocks are hard to find, and I don't blame them for trying to protect their own interests.
This is the first stone for the BC skip. This is Gerry Kent playing 6, tied 1-1.
If I can, I'd like to get a little plug in here. Last year when I went to Västerås, Sweden to play in the World Championship, my 12-year-old asked me as I was leaving to go to the airport if I was going to peel. And I said to him, I said, Ryan, I said, are you concerned that I'm going to peel? And he says, yes. And I said, well, I got to be honest with you, son, if we get ahead, we will peel. And he said, oh, and he walked away.
Is that right?
So on that point, I'd like to say that if we've got kids at that age concerned about peeling and losing interest, then I think it's time to recreate the interest and go to the modified mountain roll.
I couldn't agree more.
You guys don't like it?
And one of the big things, Ed, is that just to repeat it, is that the ability of these athletes to be able to do the things that a few years ago we couldn't do. The mechanics of throwing. You were mentioning your boys earlier today as we talked, and you know, the mechanics of the young people coming up and their ability to throw the rock, and now they can adjust all those speeds, and the athlete is getting so good. I just think we have to take a very close look at the rule. I really do.
Yeah, I think the opposition I found is people who haven't tried it, and I think what this rule will do is it'll identify the front-end curler as being a true curler and a great team person, and in some cases it's going to embarrass a few people, which only encourages them to work a little harder.
Well, here's the first move. Saskatchewan is deciding to draw to the back rock. It looks like it's just a biter at the back of the 12-foot. Randy Woytowich is playing the intern draw.
And this is his first stone. The Saskatchewan skip playing 6, and he does have last rock.
Well, maybe the rock's just out of the rings. That gave him a chance. It looks like it's very close, the one at the back.
Yeah, they seem to be looking at it with some interest. I'd have to bet, going from being an experienced skip, that it's probably out of the rings.
Mike, you've never been right.
Anytime I have a question, I always say, hey, somebody with some decent eyes.
John, get over it. That's right.
Yeah.
Have you thought about next year? Is the rink going to be the same, or have you not discussed it?
We haven't really discussed it, which probably is good, because we're probably in a period where we're still lingering from our tough defeat, and I think silence at this time would be good. We'll get together and have a little blowout party, and you know, everybody can air their feelings, but I'd be very surprised if we weren't back together.
Yep. You know, you mentioned about the Moncton rule. We did a phone poll yesterday asking people to call in, and this is what we got. You know, if people wanted to see the Moncton rule as passed by the modified Moncton rule as passed by the International Curling Federation, look at almost 2 to 1.
I'm surprised they're not higher. I think the only reason you see as many no's as you do is there's probably a little bit of tradition built into this game.
Oh, sure.
But I think if we try it for a year and give these people that voted no an opportunity to view what's happening, and a perfect example, although it's on a little bit of different systems, is TSN Skins game. It's one of the most enjoyable events that I play in on a regular basis, it turns out. But it's exciting, and it's a lot of fun for the curler, too.
This is the final stone for British Columbia here in the 6th. Woytowich didn't. And spills the shooter into the back of the 4.
Well, we'll find out in a hurry whether that stone's in or out.
Yeah, this is decision time now. Hey, even the way it sets it restricts Randy as to what turn he can roll out with, basically. He has to roll to the right, which would be his in-turn. If he tries to go the out-turn, that rock will keep him in the ring. So you can see Randy's looking at it, and so in a sense, he's being penalized for being aggressive.
We had the situation in Saskatoon, Ed, where there was a rock that looked in, and when they measured it, it was out. There's been talk of allowing a measurement during an end because that's such a big factor in the game. How do you feel about that?
I think over the years, we've always felt it as a responsibility of somebody on our team to go over, usually the front end, and check the rings before the competition starts on all sheets and all houses. And I think a lot of this game is judgment and sweeping calls and draw weight, and I think that's probably one thing that fits in with the rest of the system.
Yeah.
The final stone for Saskatchewan.
No, you guys.
He's not playing a lot of weight at this one. It looks like he was trying to stay.
Yes, yeah, I guess he decided there was a chance that rock was on. And, well, Randy's in a situation where he can't afford to gamble the other way because he would be down one. He's still in control of the game by being one ahead. Probably a smart choice if it's that close.
So Saskatchewan takes 1 and take a 2-1 lead after 6 ends. Ed Wernick, thank you very much. As always, lovely to see you, and we wish you continued success, and we do hope to see the rink together next year.
Thanks very much, Ray. Pleasure joining you, and good luck the rest of the week.
All right, thank you. All right. right, let's update for you a game between Newfoundland and Manitoba in a 3-3 tie, 6th end, and this is the final stone for the Newfoundland rink. This is John Boland of Gander throwing against a pile of Manitoba stones. Gets by the front guard, looking to play a little angle raise, and he won't. It'll be a steal of 1 for Manitoba. And so it is 4-3 Manitoba as they go to the 7th. More updates, more curling when we return to the 91 Labatt Brier in just a minute.
Brier?
TSN is bringing you your first taste of summer sunshine. The boys are back, and they're better than ever. TSN has action from the Grapefruit League. Preseason play with the Jays and the Expos. Join TSN for your first look at the Expos as Montreal takes on the Atlanta Braves. Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Get your first real taste of summer with Expos baseball on TSN.
All right, you're about to graduate into the Purex Pillow Gang. So never forget your mission in life is to be soft. Much softer. That's better. Now, present softness.
We put hundreds of little pillows in every sheet. It's 2-ply softness, you can see.
TSN has a run on clubs, and we're following through with the best in golf coverage. Tee off with the greatest golfers in the world. We're tracking around the globe for all the unbelievable, unbeatable excitement for the PGA, and touring with the queens of the greens at the major tournaments from the LPGA. Don't miss the action from the senior circuit, where yesterday's heroes are today's superstars. TSN is your ace in the hole. Join us for all the tee to green coverage.
Live update for you, Quebec, New Brunswick, as they play the 6th end. And New Brunswick leading 4-3 over Kevin Adams of Montreal. Final stone, Gary Mitchell from the Beaver Club in Moncton. Trying to draw the full 4, and he won't get there. It'll be a steal of 1 for Quebec, lying 1 at the back of the 4, and they're all tied, 4-4 after 6. Welcome back, everyone, to the 4th round of this 1991 Labatt Brier. Vic Rutter along with Linda Moore, Ray Turnbull. And in our featured game here in this 4th round, Saskatchewan taking 1 in that 6th to lead 2-1 over BC. And do you agree, Linda, with what Eddie suggested? In fact, he was being penalized. Randy Woytowich was being penalized for, in some way, for being aggressive?
Well, yes and no. I mean, Randy knows what the situation is. I'm a little surprised that BC isn't going for it a little more aggressively now. I thought once they got this game going, both of them would have their chance to put up the guards and make a play. Randy had a good chance there to come down to the back, and it just didn't work out.
Well, you can see Gerry will try and hit this stone and roll to the corner, get the corner covered, and he's going to have to make a move. As Eddie mentioned, Randy, you know, for all intents and purposes, even though it's only 1 point, he does have control. He's in the control position.
I'll just confirm, I believe so. Marcel, just confirm your first name, M-A-R. That's it,
The Saskatchewan second. This is 31-year-old Wyatt Buck. Has a couple of jobs. He farms in Abbey, Saskatchewan, has a 2,000-acre grain farm, and then he's also a plant manager at West Steel in Regina.
My board's just not the best.
Tom Shapitka.
of at a funny stage of the game, the 7th end, and both teams are content to try and keep it open. BC looking for maybe a better opportunity, perhaps in the 8th end. And Saskatchewan with that 1-point lead, just happy to run the rocks up and down and try and keep it open.
One stone in play, sitting top 8 foot for the BC third, Brian Coliseum.
Free. Hard. Hard. Hurry. Free. What?
Update for you, Alberta and Ontario as they play the 6th in a 2-2 tie, and this is the final stone for Russ Howard, and there are 2 red stones belonging to Alberta at the back of the 8th, and it looks like Alberta is indeed shot stone, and it looks, Linda, as he's going to be a long center line raise.
I think that's what he's trying. They've been actually guarding a lot of these rocks. Alberta is just content to try and give up only the 1 point.
And it will be. They pointed the Yellowstone at the top of the 4-foot, biting the 4-foot, so it is 1 for Ontario in the 6th end, and so Russ Howard takes the 3-2 lead over Kevin Martin of Edmonton. And we return to Saskatchewan, BC. 2-1 Saskatchewan as we play end number 7. There's no question the ice has been very good, and a lot of the credit here in Hamilton has to go to the ice maker. His name is Marcel DeWitt, and he's with Ray.
Marcel, there's been a tremendous amount of compliments about the ice in the first 3 draws. There's been a little indication tonight that it may be straightening out a little bit.
I don't know. I haven't seen. The weather conditions have changed. I know the humidity factor played a role here, but I think we can get it back again to where we had a couple of days ago, or a couple of draws ago.
You know, you make, when you get the rocks finishing and getting some movement out to the 12-foot, it really makes the game so much more interesting. I think back to Chicoutimi, where in the first 2 or 3 draws, Marcel, we had lots of action. And then by the Tuesday or Wednesday, it kind of straightened up, and we never really got it moving again. So you feel confident that you'll be able to get this, the ice. And I'm not suggesting that it's, you know, it's straightened right up completely, but there is a little indication out there that it's a little straighter tonight. And you feel confident that you'll be able to get it moving again in tomorrow's draws, for example.
Well, I presume that what's happening here, we have a tremendous capacity of a plant. There's a 150-ton compressor, and then there is an 80-ton. Now, sometimes we have to use a little standby, use the second compressor. That immediately lowers the temperature and changes the ice, so we have to be really on top of it at all times to let it run maybe only for 5 or 6 minutes to keep the temperature where we want it and have the effect of the draw.
Pebble, Randy Woytowich kind of indicated that maybe there was a heavier pebble. You haven't really changed the pebble for tonight's draw.
No, we haven't changed the pebble at all. It's still the same pebble at any time. No different pebble has been used since we started.
Well, there's been nothing but compliments, Marcel, about the ice, and as I just mentioned a moment ago, it sure makes for so much more interesting curling if we can get some movement and we get some rocks in play. Marcel, thank you very much for joining us, and I'm sure that you've been making ice for a long, long time. I can see that obviously you've been making so long you're cold, and you got a cold.
Oh yeah, I'm cold. normally, you know, the dry air and inside and out and so on. That's part of it.
Thank you very much, Marcel.
Thank you, Ray.
Marcel told me, he says he feels as an ice maker he has to provide entertainment, and that's a nice attitude to have. It's a great attitude to have when you're trying to provide when you're an ice maker.
And it's very, very difficult and so much work. They baby the plant, they baby the ice, they try and make sure that the surface is good for everybody.
Wasn't that interesting? He said to you, Ray, that 6 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes of that extra compressor time can change the ice, and that's how close they have to look at it.
Well, the nice part about it, Vic, is that they're working with state-of-the-art equipment here in a magnificent building. So, you know, I'm sure that, you know, I just thought I would bring up the fact that we did have a little change in the ice surface in Chicoutimi at the Brier, and it never really got back to the way it was in the early draws. And it's nice to hear that, you know, I feel a little bit for ice makers because they're always at the front, and they do get lots of criticism, and they try so hard. And as you mentioned, Marcel knows that rocks and play is entertainment, and no one's trying harder than Marcel DeWitt to try and get some movement in this ice and keep it that way. And I'm sure he'll do the job because he's a very, very experienced ice maker.
Nothing has very much has changed in our game here. Saskatchewan, BC, as they play the 7th end, 2-1 Saskatchewan leading. BC with last stone, and they just continue to exchange rocks. Now one at the top of the 12. And BC with last rock, and this will be the final stone of the end for BC and their skip, Gerry Kent.
This will probably go out a bit at the beginning. This will probably go out a bit at the beginning.
What's he mean by that, Linda? Go out a bit at the beginning?
Well, it tends to float a little bit towards the boards. It's the out-turn hit, and he's throwing fairly good weight to try and roll his rock away. So they can't sweep it early unless he's a little bit inside, or it'll really float towards the boards.
Hurry! Come on! Hurry! Whoa! Whoa!
There it is. The shooter will roll out, and we'll put another blank on the board here in the 7th end. So Kent and Woytowich still staring each other down, but Saskatchewan does have the 1-point lead.
They've been called the ambassadors of goodwill around the world, who move to the music of sweet Georgia Brown. Now from Quality Video, the Harlem Globetrotters, 6 decades of magic. For over 60 years, the Globetrotters have blended their very special concoction of basketball sleight of hand and unique comedy. A must for basketball fans, comedy buffs, young and old alike. The Harlem Globetrotters, 6 decades of magic. Only from Quality Video. In stores now.
Every morning at this time, Dad puts one of those great Eggo waffles in the toaster. And I'm always the last to get one. Until today.
Hey, let go of my Eggo.
I can almost taste it. 2, 1. Brilliant.
Eggo waffles, part of this complete breakfast.
A flawless execution. Almost.
Eggo waffles from Kellogg's.
Are they tough enough? The future stars of professional hockey make their mark today on TSN. CHL hockey, hard-hitting, wide-open hockey. Everything's on the line, and every game counts on draft day. If you want to be part of some great beginnings, join us Sunday night as the Sudbury Wolves take on the Ottawa 67. CHL hockey at TSN. Real TV.
We're in Cops Coliseum in Hamilton for this 1991 Labatt Brier 4th round coverage. Let's get you caught up in the scores. Oh, a little change there. Oh, boy, you will not miss a thing. 4-4 as they go to the 8th. Newfoundland and Manitoba. Yukon Northwest Territories. Chuck Haynes from Whitehorse has come back with one of the 7th. Still trails Rick Lang of Northern Ontario by 2. 4 blanks in our feature game. 2-1 Saskatchewan leading. BC with last rock. When as we go to 8. 4-4 Quebec and New Brunswick. Gary Mitchell trying to win his first. Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia in a 3-3 tie, playing 8. And Ontario with that 1 in the 6th, leading Alberta 3-2. The BC lead, Ken McCarr.
Well, we've waited and we've waited, but our patience has paid off because they've decided to go for it. It's the 8th end. The first rock was placed into the house, and BC threw up corner guard. There was a nose hit on the corner guard. BC will try and come around it. This one looks like it's got lots of weight, though.
That's sometimes the problem, Linda, too. You're right. We waited and patiently, and we finally got the move that we wanted to see. And Gerry Kent put up the corner guard. He got the nose hit he wanted, actually. And unfortunately, sometimes when you're coming back from playing all those hits, and now you have to draw, you just have lost your feel a little bit. And that was obviously the case, and that rock stepped through the rings. That allows Randy to walk up and run his own stone off.
The Saskatchewan second, Wyatt Buck.
Big weight on this one.
Yep, take it over. Okay, Wyatt.
Now a couple of guards on the center line.
Well, it was a miss, Vic, but the only plus for the Saskatchewan is that it did move it over closer to the center line, so they are the team without last rock, and so it kind of forces Gerry to play the hit on the stone that's just fighting the 12-foot and hope to get a little roll in behind that guard.
The shooter hangs on to the top of the 12 at about 11 o'clock.
That one rolled a little farther than they wanted, but if Saskatchewan missed cues, there is the center line guard that BC could come around.
Once again, it's very big weight.
No. Yeah, all the way. Yeah. Good try, Wyatt. Atta boy.
A live update for you now. Quebec and New Brunswick, and a 4-4 tie as they play. And you see the Yellowstone top 4, that belongs to New Brunswick, Gerry Mitchell. So this will be the draw 4-2 for Gerry Mitchell and his rink from the Beaver Club in Moncton. New Brunswick with a record of 0-3, Quebec at 1-2. Kevin Adams got off to the quick start in the opening round, and then his last 2 in a row. Could he play the quiet tap back here on that red stone, or is he going to try and draw him?
He's just drawing. It's a little dangerous to play with the rock that's right in front of his own.
Looking for 2. And a 6-4 lead. It'll hang on. Nice draw weight by Gerry Mitchell, and he'll pick up his 2. Looking for his first win, now leading 6-4 over Quebec. The stone of the Saskatchewan third, Brian McCusker.
Well, Gerry almost got the roll last time. It just rolled too far. It rolled out into the open. It went behind the guard that sits out in front, the rock you're looking at now. But it rolled into the open, and Randy removed it, and he didn't get the roll either. So you can see Gerry Kent now indicating that I think he's just going to play this quietly, Linda.
Yeah, just wants to tap it back.
Just play it, tap it back, yeah. Try and maybe get the little inside roll. Just playing very controlled weight.
Lots of room.
Lots of room is the call.
Line's good. Line's good.
I'm right in behind the sheet, so you've got a pretty good look at this. It's just not breaking at all.
Nice shot.
I kept that back rock in play, Linda, so that in removing the stone, it's just not a simple hit. You got to make sure you don't drive it back onto the back one.
for you now. Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia. Final stone, Robert Campbell, Charlottetown Curling Club in a 3-3 tie with Nova Scotia.
Looks like he's facing 2, and he'll make the nose hit.
Top of the 4 to pick up 1, facing a couple of Nova Scotia stones around the 4-foot, and PEI will take a 4-3 lead to the 9th end. Robert Campbell from the Charlottetown Club, 0-3 coming in.
Very nice shot, Linda. They left it all the way. It got the late break. Now it's rolled in behind the corner guard, or the guard just off the center line, but it's about half exposed. They stayed off it all the way down the ice and waited for it, and then they jumped on it at the end, trying to hold it up at this point. Catches the shot stone, just rolls it. This just rolls it. It's about half exposed.
Well, BC's committed. They're going to have to come down to this rock.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait only.
This one's over curling. They're going to have to try and chip the guard and roll in.
Really feel a little sorry for Gerry on that, because once again, having the opportunity of standing right in behind the sheet, when halfway down the ice it looked fine. It was staying out and the weight was perfect. Brian threw the perfect weight, and then all of a sudden it just broke. Maybe we could try and hear what they have to say, to hear if they have a comment about it, because it just snapped.
I thought that would hang there. I thought that would hang there.
Oh.
Yeah. Might have picked up something.
I don't know. I thought it was good.
You can hear the conversation.
Nice, and then all of a sudden, boom. Might have got something.
It was a straight spot.
It wasn't too late.
No.
You hear Brian mentioning, it wasn't the weight. No, he said it really took off, and it did.
The corner guards for me.
Yeah. Those are the little things that really make the game so frustrating, Linda. Once again, halfway down the ice, that rock looked absolutely perfect, and it just snapped and went sideways on him.
You like the guard? No, not at all. You turn that back. You like the guard? Yeah, real tight.
Randy Woytowich asking his front end if they like the guard plan.
I think it's a good shot. He's looking at sitting 2. His rock is in the 4-foot.
Front or even tighter. I won't want to be in the rings real bad. Then you can hit and flop and try a double and all sorts of things.
Like it tight to the rings, but not in.
Not at all. I can throw 4 for the guard almost.
Talking about the weight, they use a scale, number 4 being the weight. Could mean that it runs 24 seconds, or it could be just an arbitrary number judging the weight.
This is the first stone for the Saskatchewan skip, playing the 8th end. BC has last rock. Plugs the center line, Saskatchewan line 2.
Actually, probably best here. Right here is the best, because if we go back here and he freezes to it, he steals one for sure.
You can sit right here.
Yeah, we got to be in front of it. Yeah, it's straight out there. Should hang straight.
Well, they're talking about this spot now, Linda, coming, through the port, through the hole, and sitting on top of the stone. Just in front of the button is what they indicated. You heard Gerry say we don't want to go back to it, and then he can follow us down and freeze to us, and he'll steal one for sure. And one would be a big steal.
In front of the tee line, because we go back to that one and he puts one in there, he's got a sure steal. Should be out in the straight stuff here.
Been pretty wide open, hasn't it?
Well, Gerry made a move in this end to try and get something going. Unfortunately, just didn't quite get the roll he needed earlier in the end, and now he's faced with a very difficult come around. He wants to be in front of the tee line, he shot rock.
Wait for it.
Wait for it, he says. The line looks... It's just not moving at all.
Well, he had said before he threw it that he thought it would be straight out there.
It's got to get by the front yellow one. I don't think so. The weight was closer. They could have brushed it, Linda, but they couldn't lay a broom on it because it just wasn't coming at all. It ran straight down there.
Looks like Saskatchewan's line 1-2.
What you got second? I don't mind that. Anywhere here is good.
No, it's just not working for Gerry. The one before that one took off, and this one ran straight.
Unbelievable.
There. We got second. I think so. Right here. That's perfect. Where did I throw that? Right there? Yeah. That's where we got the guard, eh? Yeah. I bet we can go there, Brian. Okay. That's where we threw that bump weight and we got some curl there, eh? Yeah. Let's just go a little more.
Well, the first objective with this one is to try and block the hole so that Gerry doesn't have the outturn draw.
He hasn't got that raise. He hasn't got that raise, eh?
They're talking about the center rock raise, and I think they're right. I don't think it's there, Linda.
I just think we can get some movement here. Yeah.
There's just enough overlap of the high guard, the long guard,
I think we can get some movement here.
To take away the center line raise. Gerry may have to end up playing the wide angle raise.
Guard just sat and sat, eh, and then it both breaks at the end, and I think this is what this is going to do too.
They've called to bring it into the rings if they can get some movement and get it partially behind the red stone.
Second stone for the Saskatchewan skip, Randy Woytowich.
Just for weight. Lots of room. Weight. Lots of room. Hey, good now, hurry. Hurry. Just
They're waiting for it to break. He'd love to get it to the top of the forefoot. That would take away the angle raise even.
And he just gets it there. Bites it anyway, but I don't know. I think that angle's still there on that wide, that stone actually biting the top of 12, Linda.
It is. He can still play the raise. They were looking momentarily at the possible double takeout, but at this point he has to score.
Good call.
They have to wait for it here, and then just staying out. Then it starts to make a fairly big move right about now. And they should jump on it here in a moment and try and get it to the top of the forefoot. You can see it coming across a little bit. Very difficult shot left for Gerry Kent. He's got nothing, but he's playing the only shot he has.
The only question is how much weight to throw.
Yeah. No, that last one is just a run.
Saskatchewan lying 3. One biting the top of the 4, one at the back of the forefoot in that shot at the back of the 12, just hanging on.
They're anticipating it to run pretty straight, obviously, but just you can see they're only taking about 3-4 inches of ice. Back, you heard Brian say, it's just not coming.
It'll be a steal of 2 for Saskatchewan in the 8th.
It's too bad, and he had the perfect weight for the raise. It just didn't come for him, and you heard Brian say he just got it back a bit. He put it back.
4-1, Saskatchewan leading British Columbia.
It's winter. Let the games begin.
When the games are through, it's time for a blue. Labatt's blue. It's the way we play.
Wake up, hey Canada, wake up. Today is on McCain Day.
What's the secret of McCain's richer tasting juice? More oranges. McCain concentrates the juice of more oranges into every can. More than Minute Maid, more than Old South. So you have a special reason to buy McCain.
You bet I do.
It's like an extra squeeze of juice in every glass. So compared to Minute Maid and Old South, you have an extra reason to drink McCain.
You bet I do. Wake up to McCain.
Thursday, the excitement is mounting at the Labatt Brier in Hamilton. TSN is all the curling action from the evening draw. Then the Leafs color man, Harry Neal, exchanges stories with an old friend on the grapevine. Later, Brad Diamond takes you out of the gate and down the stretch for all the news in the world of horse racing. We've got exciting Brier action. Harry Neal's on the grapevine and the world of horse racing, Thursday on TSN.
Update, Alberta, Ontario, as they play the 7th, 3-2. Ontario leading this, the final stone, Kevin Martin from the Avonare Club in Edmonton. He's a draw, full four foot as he's facing a couple of Ontario stones. Boy, he has had some day. Mr. Martin played Northern Ontario. 3-3, tie. Way to go, Kevin Martin. Northern Ontario, the territories, that yellow stone, edge of the 4 foot. T-line. This is the final stone for Rick Lang. Maybe the extra practice after his loss in round 3 paid off, because look at here. Has the draw weight to a T, and he'll pick up his 1 in 8 and take a 6-3 lead over the Yukon and Northwest Territories Chuckanes from Whitehorse. Newfoundland and Manitoba as they play the 8th in a 4-4 tie. Newfoundland lying 1 4 foot, final stone just out in Wildwood in Winnipeg. It'll just keep on sliding. A steal of 1 for Newfoundland, and they take a 5-4 lead to the 9th end of play. In our game, it's now 4-1. Saskatchewan leading after that steal of 2 in the 8th.
Chance you take BC going for it the last end. If it doesn't work out, you certainly sow yourself into a bad position.
Wyatt Buck makes the takeout, and as expected, Saskatchewan now going to play it very, very cleanly. With Saskatchewan leading 4-1, playing the 9th. And if anything develops and Gerry Kent can make the comeback, we'll come back as well to show it to you. And now we want to check in the game between Alberta and Ontario as they get ready to play the 9th. And Russ Howard getting a drink of water, and maybe drowning his sorrow a little bit because he just had one stolen on him by Kevin Martin for a 4-3 lead.
Well, it was kind of an interesting situation, Vic, because he had to tap a rock back that was in the 4-foot, full in the 4-foot, and he kept the brushers off it all the way because he felt he was outside on it. He got to the face of it and touched it back, but didn't touch it far enough, and it was a little bit of a communication problem. The brushers were trying to indicate that it didn't have the weight, and you can see it now. There's a good, right at this point, the brushers want to get on. You can see they're anxious to get on, but Russ is very, very vocal, and he was really yelling out, no, 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 and you can see they want to get on it because they know the weight isn't there, and at this point they jump on it, but it's a little too late. You'll see they hit the stones and moves it back, but it's a steal of one, and a one as a single big point at this stage of the game. That's the 8th then, and gives Kevin Martin control of this game now, that control point.
Brier, I found it a little bit strange that he played it so quietly because the only other stone in the rings was just biting the 12-foot. He had a long way to roll. Now, if he played just tap back line weight, maybe even half weight, but I was surprised he played it so quietly.
Yeah, I am a little bit too, Linda, but he does have a history of, you know, playing those kind of things very, very quietly, but not obviously that quietly. There was really no need to play it with back 4-foot weight. You could play that shot with back 8, you know, back 12-foot or just light hack weight and still save your shooter, especially on this particular ice surface, because there isn't a lot of action once the stones make contact. In other words, they're not, you know, sliding off very easily. They will dig in for you. So I agree. I was sorry, Vic. I agree. Right. I was surprised at that kind of weight too.
This is the Ontario League Peter Corner. Another point too, and if there is one criticism of Russ Howard that is around, is that he likes to call his sweepers off as soon as he throws the stone. And if you don't, I mean, that's the thing. Who do you listen to? Do you listen to the man throwing it, and if in fact he's a skip, or do you listen to the man holding the broom? And that, you've heard that as well, have you not?
Well, he's a very vocal player, that's for sure. And you mentioned earlier in the week, and in about a game and a half or 2 games from now, he won't have any voice because we've seen it happen so many times. And I just think at that stage, on that particular shot, I'm sure he wishes now he had listened or taken the advice of Wayne and Glenn to get on that stone, because he's playing against one of the best hitting teams. We talked about Kevin Martin earlier as one of the best hitting teams in the game, and it's going to be very difficult for him to get something going now.
Well, Ontario comes into this 4th round, and Russ Howard as the only unbeaten team with 3 straight wins, and going against Alberta with a record of 2-1, and there are 6 teams at that 2-1 record.
We saw a great indication of Kevin Martin's ability to hit, and in the afternoon draw when Nova Scotia had him in a good position in the extra end, the second extra end actually, to be able to seal the game, and just came a little bit too far with the guard, and Kevin Martin ran the double and picked up the victory. What were the figures we talked about earlier in this draw was that in their 8 games in their Alberta playdowns, they had a total of 20 points scored against them in 8 games and scored a total of 32. That is not a lot of points, and it's certainly a crystal clear indication that this team can peel and hit with anyone.
With Alberta up 1 point, of course, they could be trying to go for more points, because the way they're playing, they're obviously going for Ontario only to get 1, perhaps in the 10th end, and to go to the extra end. But they do play this game well, Ray, and that's their approach. They're going to keep it wide open and not give Ontario any chances for the extra point.
Kevin Martin, former Canadian junior men's champion. And this is the first stone for the Alberta third. This is Kevin Park.
Lots of turn, lots of handle. You can see 1, 2, 3.
Boy, oh boy, dude.
3 complete revolutions of the stone on the way down.
And lots of weight, too.
You bet. Rushers have to get started on those, Linda. They got to be moving when he comes out of the hack.
Right.
Otherwise, you're left behind.
Catch him midway, huh? Very few times do you see bad numbers beside the name of Glenn Howard, the Ontario third.
Let her go way over.
Goes the other side this time.
The Alberta skip takes his time. He makes sure the ice is clean so that the 2 rocks will spill away easily.
There's the ice. Outside in.
This is what you were suggesting earlier on peels, is to play it to the outside of the rock because it's the shorter way to the edge.
That's the theory. The shooter doesn't have any very far to roll. It just has to go to the boards, and then the other one will be pushed the other direction.
Little hump.
Yeah. Little fastball right there.
The thing that we shouldn't do is take away from the ability and the talent that it takes to do that. That's the one thing when we talk about, you know, getting rocks in play and all those kinds of things. You know, we don't want to belittle or put down in any way the ability of the curve. That takes a talent to peel stones. And you can see, I talked about the revolutions of the stone as it goes down the ice and the ability to drive hard from the hack and throw the up weight. That is a talent. There's no question about it.
Well, I mean, I only have to think in the games that I play at a club level that, you know, when somebody says up the weight, how dangerous it is. You want to push it a little bit more, and you're apt to throw it outside and throw it right by.
Well, you certainly test all the little parts of your delivery when you have to drive out of that hack hard.
Well, a smiling Rick Lang as he bounces back after a loss in round 3. It's an 8-3 win over the Territories. And Chuck Haynes from Whitehorse. So Rick Lang and his rink from Fort William Thunder Bay, now 3-1. The Yukon Northwest Territories 1-3.
Kevin Martin's playing the out-turn draw, drawing away from the corner guard.
He's got to get this in the rings, otherwise he allows Russ to go in and play behind the corner he threw up.
Some options with this. Russ could play down to the rock in the house. He could try and tap it back. He could go around the corner guard and ignore that rock.
With only 2 stones to come, Linda, I think that, you know, you're right. He could go around behind the corner guard and force Kevin to make the good draw or the hit. I think he's more likely to play to the freeze to the face of it. Or the other option, of course, he could hit that and hope to stick and hope to hit and roll out in his next one. He's looking now. You can see him sticking back, looking for the roll behind the corner, playing the hit and rolling. No, he says, let's
go long roll.
That's right, as ever.
What Glenn was sort of indicating with his brush is they can't actually come to the face of this rock and have their rock being shot. They have to either corner freeze it or tap it a few inches so that they will be sitting number 1. And Alberta Stone will be second shot.
Yeah. You have a better look at it than I, Linda, from up where you are. It's right on the tee line?
It looks like it is, yes.
This will be the first stone for the Ontario skip Russ Howard, playing the 9th end, and Alberta leading 4-3.
calling for Glenn to come and help.
It's going to curl too much, I think, Linda.
Maybe a little bit light, yes. It's going to just come to the front 12 foot.
Well, you said earlier in the draw that there just isn't anybody that's going to whistle through this thing without losing a game, and it looks very much now like Kevin Martin's got a good hold on this one, so if he can knock off Russ Howard, the Ontario team, he can bring Russ back to him and a few other teams. That was his comment this afternoon after his victory. We'll get a chance to play Ontario tonight, he said, and maybe bring him back to us, and he's in a good position at this point to certainly do so.
The final stone for the Alberta skip, Kevin Martin. Here in end number 9, Ontario does have last rock.
I want to be there.
They're putting another one into the rings. The philosophy being best guard is second shot.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, hurry, come on, come on,
Very good placement. I tell you what, isn't that something? Look at that. Draw weight either side.
Yeah, he couldn't leave it shorter than that, or there was a possible double takeout. That is perfect positioning.
Linda, Vic, I've got Rick Lang as he just walks by me here. We get a few words from Rick. We didn't get a chance to watch your game, but obviously things went pretty well today.
Yeah, we got off to the better start that we like to do. In the first end, Scott made a couple good shots, and then I had a tap out for 3 and made it, and I think that gave me my confidence back that I was missing in the earlier game today.
This game with Russ Howard, we've come over to this sheet, Alberta, Ontario, and Russ is in a situation now where he has to draw a full of a 4-foot just to tie this game up. So Kevin Martin's got a chance to bring him back to everybody else, Rick.
Yeah, and Kevin Martin and his team really seem to be playing well, and if Russ doesn't make this one, he's in trouble, but I think he makes these most of the time.
He sure does. Thanks, Rick, very much.
Okay, Rick.
Good game.
The final stone of this 9th end in Ontario, looking to get one. Stops back 4, and it is shot stone. Ontario will pick up their 1 to tie the game. We're all even at 4 apiece. Alberta and Kevin Martin will have last rock, and this man, Russ Howard, will look to steal.
It's the Beverly Hillbillies. They went from rags to riches, from the Ozarks to Rodeo Drive.
Come and listen to my story about a man named Ched. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude.
Oil, that is. That's where their money came from. Now these backwoods billionaires are available on video cassette from Columbia House Video Library. The first 3-episode cassette is yours for only $1.95. Examine it risk-free. Then get a new collector's cassette every 4 to 6 weeks. Keep only the ones you want. Each cassette contains 3 original uncut episodes of the Beverly Hillbillies, guaranteed to keep you chuckling with down-home humor.
He's a peasant just like the rest of you. You low-bred hussy! Dad didn't
Get your credit card and call now, or mail check or money order to the address on your screen. Y'all call now, you hear?
Take a break, Canada. TSN has your weekend made. Kick off the day with live action on Soccer Saturday. Then it's the start of the Grapefruit League. The Jays take on the Phillies. Later, we're courtside with the Lakers and the Bullets. Then on to Calgary for the CIAU Volleyball Championship. But wait, there's more. We're putting the sun back in Sunday with Expos action from Florida. On to Quebec City for the CIAU basketball title. Later, it's CHL on ice. Then the weekend news recap on Sports Desk. And then it's...
Newfoundland 6-4 as they play Manitoba in the 10th. Northern Ontario, Rick Lang, you heard him talking with Ray, a winner, up his record to 3-1 over the Yukon Northwest Territories. Saskatchewan stole 1 more in the 9th, now leading BC 5-1 as they play 10. Quebec has come back with 1 in the 9th but still trail 8-5. PEI Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia got 2 in 10 to tie 5-5. Extra end. Robert Campbell does have last rock. And there's the game we're going to concentrate on. Alberta and Ontario in a 4-4 tie going to 10, and Alberta and Kevin Martin do have last rock advantage. Let's remember back to the third round and Kevin Martin in his game against Nova Scotia. Similar situation, if I remember correctly. Had to go 2 extra ends before finally Alberta hung around to get the win. Feature game is over now as Saskatchewan has run BC out of rocks. So Randy Woytowich from the Tartan Club in Regina wins it by his final score of 5-1 over BC. Saskatchewan improving their record now to 3-1. British Columbia and Gerry Kent of Cranbrook dropped to 2-2. Nearly got the nose hit there. The Ontario second is Wayne Madar.
On the 12th end this afternoon, Kevin Martin was facing 2 with his last rock. I'm sure they'd love to keep this one clean and have a very simple hit or a draw with his last one.
Well, interesting enough, then this afternoon's game against Dan Bentley, we saw Kevin play the perfect 10th end in the same situation where the score was tied, and Nova Scotia put the stone in the rings, and Kevin hit and rolled out, and then in the extra end, they had an excellent chance, Nova Scotia, to steal the game, and Kevin Martin made a beautiful double with his last rock.
Dan Petrick. Whoa. Scoots it down the board, yeah.
Only problem with corn brooms is there's not a lot of room to swing them when you're that close to the boards.
Is that worth anything to Russ Howard, that stone, or is it just...
Well, if he's having to draw way over there, I would think that Kevin Martin would just draw anywhere in the rings for the win. I mean, you get desperate, it might come into play. He might look to put up another guard on that side of the house, and if it was ever mishit, it could be jammed into the rings off that red stone. Talked about every possible option, where to place the guard, maybe to come into the rings and hope for a nose hit in the house. But it looks like they're putting up another center line guard.
The first stone for the Ontario third. This is Glenn Howard. Centerline guard. Our feature game tonight, Saskatchewan a 5-1 winner over British Columbia, and Ray is with the winning skip from the Tartan in Regina, Randy Woytowich.
Randy, there wasn't a lot of opportunity in that game, but it came in the 8th end, and you certainly took advantage of it.
Yeah, like the ice was a little bit straighter tonight. You're going to have limited opportunities, and we accidentally got some rocks in play in the 8th end with some missed fields, and fortunate for us, we got a deuce out of it.
I had a chance to talk to Marcel DeWitt, the ice maker, to ask him if he'd done anything different in preparing the ice for that draw. And I asked him specifically about the pebbling, and he felt that they really hadn't done anything different as far as pebbling was concerned.
Well, yeah, we just know it took us a hair longer to break it down, and it was starting to go there towards the end. Like, we buried 1 1/8, which was, we got it about 3/4 around, so all the other sheets look pretty good. So maybe ours was just a hair straighter.
Just a little straighter. Yeah. Randy, it was a good game for you, and I'm sure that you'll look forward to the draws tomorrow. It's at this point you can see Ontario having a little trouble, so it certainly isn't. No one's going to walk through this thing without a couple of losses.
No, she looks like it's going to be a real dogfight, and we're in the hunt. We're not too far out of it, so as long as we can keep close, see what happens.
You sure are. The boys from the Tartan Club served a little notice today, Vic.
Congratulations to Randy Woytowich and his 5-1 win. Kevin Park, the Alberta third with his first stone, took off that center line guard put up by Glenn Howard, and this will be his second stone.
Well, Glenn asked for the in-turn, so he'll put up the center line guard with just the other turn. Maybe hoping to get it a little bit over the other side of center line and complicate Kevin Martin's job a bit.
It's all over on sheet A. Newfoundland, Manitoba. John Boland of Gander, a 6-4 winner over Jeff Stoughton from the Wildwood in Winnipeg. So Newfoundland in their first Brier appearance, now 3-1. Manitoba 2-2.
From the inside out, so it does complicate their job a little bit. They've decided to play this turn, which is different than what they've been playing.
Live update for you, Quebec, New Brunswick, and New Brunswick's Gerry Mitchell with an opportunity to run Quebec out of rocks. And it is handshakes and an 8-5 win for New Brunswick. And the rink from the Beaver in Moncton. New Brunswick's record now 1-3 as they win their first. Kevin Adams from the Glenmore in Montreal also 1-3. 8-5 the 5.
Got a break.
Not much Russ Howard can do.
No, you really have to hope, Vic. It's a long shot. You're looking for that nose hit, and you're looking from that nose hit from a player that throws those big hit shots, those big weight shots as well as anybody. So it's a long shot, but you got to hope. And we saw it almost happen this afternoon, as I just mentioned a few moments ago.
The first stone for the Alberta skip, Kevin Martin.
Well, there's nothing, Linda, to hide behind, is there?
No. You either have to put it in position where you think they might roll out, or put it on the sides and hope that he might miss a draw.
It's really interesting because it all came down to that 8-10 where Russ was, where he had control and he had to hit against 2, and he played this, you mentioned him, this so quietly, and they just couldn't rush it because he was full of a broom, and there was a lot of conversation, a lot of shouting by Russ, and as a result, he just didn't push it hard enough, and that was the control point. That gave Kevin Martin the control point. This is the exact situation that Kevin Martin had this afternoon in the last end of the game, and it's the exact same turn that he's playing, the out turn. He's taking on the edge of the stone. He has to hit and stick for the victory. This afternoon he hit and rolled out, and then got into a little trouble in the extra end, but was able to make a sensational double, as I mentioned earlier.
The reason I think that he rolled out in that game is he was playing those big weight shots so many times, and he was grooming himself very tight. Then to try and hit and stay, he pulled back the weight a little bit and took very similar ice, and the rock just over curled. He's taking very little ice here.
The final stone, 10th end for the win in a 4-4 tie. Alberta's Kevin Martin needs to hit and stick right here.
It's running pretty straight. He's going to catch at the corner of it. I think he's going to roll it again. Exactly the same thing that happened this afternoon.
It does. And they'll play an extra end.
It's absolutely identical to what happened this afternoon. It was the same turn, and he just stepped the weight a little bit up, and
if you want it.
Now we want to go live to the game between Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, as they play an extra end, PEI with last rock, and this will be the final stone for Robert Campbell. Nova Scotia lying one at the back of the 4-foot, and this is the draw for the win for PEI and their first of this 91 Labatt Brier.
I'm in behind this sheet deck, and it's staying out a little bit. It's starting to move a little bit now. They're just brushing it all the way.
And there it is. PEI will have their first win of this 91 Labatt Brier as they win it by a score of 6-5 over Nova Scotia. Robert Campbell and his rink from the Charlottetown Curling Club. Still one game to go when we come back to Hamilton.
Membership in some clubs can involve some rather strange rituals, like secret handshakes, interesting fashion statements, and certain tests. But when you join the Sears Club, all you have to do is use your Sears card to collect points. Points that can be redeemed for almost anything in the store or catalog. As a result, Sears Club members tend to have little rituals as well. Welcome to the club.
Ever notice some of the best-looking people still have belly bulge? Sit-ups, leg lifts, and rocking around on the floor don't work.
Medical investigations have proven that these type of sit-up exercises require back motion that can cause injury to the spine.
Then how do I get my stomach into shape?
Introducing Abflex, a scientific breakthrough that allows safe abdominal development without back strain. A 3-minute Abflex workout produces better results than 500 sit-ups. Simply expand and contract your stomach muscles against 12 resistance settings to develop all stomach muscles simultaneously. Just 3 minutes a day, and I've lost 2 inches off my waist.
Can Abflex firm my bottom?
Yes, with this exclusive back and glute attachment, simply tilt and press your back and buttocks into shape. Order Abflex and instruction booklet for only $34.95 and receive the back and glute attachment at $9.95 value free. Here's how to order. Call 1-800-561-2612. That's 1-800-561-2612. Or send just $34.95 plus handling. 30-day money-back guarantee.
Canada's Lennox Lewis fights for another boxing title. After conquering this country's best, left hungry by the Olympics, Lewis turned pro and has never looked back. TSN was there when Lewis captured the European crown. We'll be there as he battles for the British Championship. Live from Wembley Arena, Lennox Lewis takes on Gerry Mason for the British Heavyweight Championship. Wednesday, 5 Eastern. Be there when it happens on TSN.
Well, it is deja vu for Kevin Martin and his rink from Alberta, as they played Nova Scotia with a chance to win it with the hit and stick, but they couldn't. And this was in the 11th end, the first extra end. They went 2 before he finally won the game. And then, boy, look at this, another opportunity. And he couldn't hold it here either, Ray. And so we will go to an extra end, tied 4-4, and Martin smiling and saying, gee, didn't I do that? Ah, yeah, boy. What is wrong with me? And then you have to wonder, too, you know, Linda Ray, if indeed Russ Howard knew something, put it in that spot for that reason.
Well, he came across the face on the first one, and on the second one, he stayed on the outside of it, but both were out turns.
The Ontario lead, this is Peter Corner.
You don't want to give Ontario too many chances at this opportunity to steal. If they get a nose hit, they certainly know how to come around that rock.
Russ will move this rock around, trying to get something out in front. This afternoon, Nova Scotia got the one big miss that they required, and were able to get a rock in the back of the button.
The Alberta lead is 30-year-old Don Bartlett. As we say, this afternoon, it went 2 extra ends against Nova Scotia before Martin and his Alberta rink could put the game away. No mistake this time as he makes the Rays take out to lie 1. Yeah, just needed 2 tries, and he picked up the win. The Ontario second, Wayne Madaw, putting up the guard.
Peel.
This time it's Dan Petrick, the Alberta second. Is there any sense of going into the rings?
Lots of teams try it when they see the opposition peel so well. You put it at the, oh, he's talking about it, put it at the 4-foot area and hope for a nose hit in the house, and then you can start playing down to those rocks.
You're right, and he thought about it for a moment, just to slide it into the 4-foot, but he's, at the last moment, he chose to throw it up in front.
It's nice to think that Russ Howard and I think alike.
Are you trying to tell Linda and I that you and Russ Howard are on the same level at this game, Vic?
No, of course. Just the corner. Oh.
They never ask you by how much, do they, Linda?
This is our location here. We're up, and Ray is down there, ice level. Next step, Ray is right from curling to the golf course, and you'll be walking along with the PGA Tour, and he's right beside making that 4-foot putt, you know. You like it down there, though, don't you?
It's a different perspective to the game, for sure. You really get a feel for the brushing, a feel for the communication between the team members, and yeah, it's kind of neat. is the closest Vic will ever get to being on the ice at Brier again, I can tell you that.
Howard with his first stone, the Ontario third. Again, center line guard.
Each team was awarded 10 minutes to play this extra end. Time clock is ticking away.
Kevin Park. They also get a 3-minute break at the end of the game, Ray, so they get to catch their breath, think about the extra end and how they're going to play it, although I don't think this Alberta rink has to think too long about the way they're going to play.
No, not many planning sessions going on, but maybe a little bit of a team talk because they did miss the one in the 10th, so just saying, well, one more time we'll do it. Try to leave our skip an easy shot.
Martin wearing a path out in the ice as he just moves up beside this latest center line guard thrown up by Ontario.
This is great shot making by both teams, really, when you think about it, because these guards have been placed exactly where Russ wanted them. He's moved it around a little bit, but the positioning in front of the rings is always the same. And what's he saying? Well, maybe if he hits it here, we'll go over here. No.
You make a good point too, Linda, because you know, they've peeled every stone off, but each member of the Ontario team has put the stone exactly where they wanted. They haven't slipped into the rings. They put it in between the hog line and the top of the rings, and looking for the one nose hit, and they may get it right here. A small opportunity presents itself.
And listen to the crowd.
You can't give this guy, as Linda mentioned, too many chances.
You and I saw a similar situation at the McCain Superspiel in Florenceville. Remember, he was playing Gerry Mitchell.
Exactly.
And Gerry Mitchell with his first stone had the nose hit. And Russ with his last stone drew in behind, and then Mitchell flipped off that, and it was a steal of a win for Russ Howard in a trip to the Skins game.
Russ made a sensational shot, and Gerry just, you know, just had maybe a pound too much weight, and I mean a fraction too much weight, and it just rolled off and gave Russ Howard a trip to the Skins, as you suggest, Dick. But
and also, Ray, he made it on ice, which was considerably straighter than this is.
Much straighter, and that's actually was what caused the problem for Gerry, because he just couldn't get in with that pound extra weight.
Yep.
It's a great chance for Russ Howard.
And now he has 2 shots to possibly get in behind. This will be the first for the Ontario skip, former Canadian and world champion.
And they patted the front of the button. He would love this to be buried and in front of the tee line.
Come out now to join Peter Corder, Wayne Maddock. They've got it by. Ooh, they got it by. Now where's it going to stop? They want it top 4 foot. They'll draw it in just to bite the top of the 8.
Well, boy, did he ever have the pass, Linda. It just dug in a little bit on him, and it stops the top of the 8. He would like that top 4. And it wasn't for lack of rushing, let me tell you that. For the minute,
encouragement, Ray.
That's right. You got the combination of the two of them, but they jumped on it immediately. They were on that rock immediately.
Kevin Martin only has one choice, and if you look at peeling out that guard, probably Russ Howard would just bury behind the Yellowstone, so Kevin's going to try and beat Russ in front of the button, behind the yellow rock.
Well, you're right, Linda. If he runs off the front rock, he's not going to do himself any good because Russ will just tap that back. You know, just tap it back to the forefoot and would force Kevin to make that tricky double that similar to the one he played this afternoon and made, mind you. But so he's going to go in himself, try and get it half behind that Ontario stone, the yellow stone sitting in the 8-foot. Remember, Kevin has not played a lot of draws since the 8th end, since he took control. And he looks like he may be a little warm on this. He doesn't want to be behind the tee line, does he?
Oh, look at that. Boy, you know what?
Well, it
dug in. Yeah. Did you see how quickly that stopped?
The only thing about that, Vic, is that I think that if Russ can come down and sit right on top of it, just move it back 2 or 3 inches, you maybe have a little better look at it than I do. But can he not be shot rock, Linda?
I think so. We'll see where it stops. I think Vic is right that it looked like it maybe caught something just at the top of the forefoot. Have a look and see if it takes an extra spin at the end here. Well, it might have really slowed down.
Right there, it did. You're right, Dick. Good eye.
Well, because you had said it looked hot. I mean, it looked like it might be back 12 and suddenly dug in.
I am at the other end, so it's if it did crossing the hog line, it looked like it was going to be a little hot. The brusher's almost backed away from it.
The good thing about the stone is the corner of it is covered by the yellow rock. I don't think he can get the flop. Glenn's sort of indicating that they do that. I think they would have to roll away a little bit and then hope that if Kevin went after it with takeout, he would roll out.
I really think the best you can do, Linda, is move it back 6 or 7 inches and sit right there and force Kevin to, come down and tap it back or pick it. I can't see any alternative. I agree with you. There's absolutely no way that you can get the roll inside. Unless there's something that we don't know about this game, which is possible, too.
No, I think the tap back is the shot.
Russ is talking to his front end now.
Well, Kevin Martin got away with one in the 3rd round against Nova Scotia. May not be as fortunate here against Russ Howard. 2 stones to come. Final stone, Ontario. Last rock, extra end, belongs to Alberta.
Starting to move now. He's got the line. Starting to go a little bit. He just wants to touch it back. It just didn't curl enough for him. It had to curl another 3 or 4 inches, and it would have been a much better shot. Kevin can certainly remove it. He has to be a little careful to get it by the back stone, but you can.
And this is a reason why this man has no voice by the end of the week.
He didn't get the movement. The last 3 or 4 feet, it just didn't make the move that he required to sit in front of the stone. So it's wide open, and all Kevin has to do is pick it out of there, bang it out of there.
Looked like he may have taken a little more ice, did he, for that shot?
Yeah, he did possibly, Vic, but it just didn't make the move for him. Kevin can actually hit this on the nose.
The opportunity to hit for the win, a 4-4 tie. Alberta and Ontario, final stone. Kevin Martin.
No problem here, I don't think.
No problem indeed. He'll pick up 2. And then there were no undefeated rings. They'll return to Hamilton for the 91 Labatt Brier in just a moment.
With the gentle softness of white swan facial tissue, it's always a happy ending.
Time Life Music proudly presents Country USA, the most complete country collection ever, bringing you the legendary stars and their biggest hits.
Hello, darling. Nice to see you.
Year by year, you'll enjoy the biggest hits of country music in one great collection. Start with 24 original hits from the year 1962.
So break out the bottle, bring on the crowd.
I've got your picture. She's got you.
Devil woman, let me be and leave me alone. I wanna go home. She thinks I still care.
Country USA 1962. 2 LPs or 1 double-length cassette, $12.95. Compact disc, $16.95. Only from Time Life Music, the name you can trust.
Credit card customers call toll-free 1-800-848-1000. That's 1-800-848-1000. Or send just $12.95 for double-length cassette or $16.95 for compact disc. Plus $4 shipping and handling to Country USA 1962, P.O. Box 600, Station R, Toronto, Ontario.
Asthma isn't child's play. Please give and help find a cure. Happiness is just a breath away.
The fourth round of the 1991 Labatt Brier is complete, and it was another nail-biter for Alberta as they had to go to an extra end to get by Ontario, and Kevin Martin improves his record, and Kevin is standing by with Ray.
Kevin, that was kind of a repeat of what we saw this afternoon. That game, you had the chance to win it, and you just hit and rolled out.
Yeah, I know. It's my that out turn in that spot. I have a feeling when a guy gets away from here, Jules is going to be making me throw about 500 of them tonight. But we'll work on it and get that figured out. You know, I used to hope that somebody threw into that spot on the out turn side. Yay! I don't know, last couple of games, just inconsistent.
Well, at this point, it really doesn't make any difference at all because you played a great shot with your last one. Russ's Rock, just talk briefly a little bit about Russ's Rock. He had the right line on it, as you suggest, but you felt he was just a little bit too heavy, pushed a little too far, eh?
Right. If he would have been maybe a foot lighter, it would have curled over maybe another couple inches, and then it would have been perfect. But as it turned out, even where it was in the end, it was on a fall. If I pushed that in-turn back at all, we're dead. But luckily, we held it right next to the line, and it won't fall away at that point.
We got a chance to take a look at Russ's shot here, Kevin. It's at this point, they think it's going to make a little bit of a move. They stay off it all the way.
Yeah, it's coming pretty good right now, but he's just a bit heavy. He's back 8, you know, and that's just a little bit too big. The ice just doesn't bend at that speed, you know. If he's got maybe a foot less, he's perfect, and we probably won't hardly have a shot to win. But it didn't bend, and we, you know, a reasonably easy shot to win.
Well, you laid that last stone with lots of confidence and hit it right on the nose. So
it was an in-turn.
It wasn't the out turn.
Yeah, it wasn't the out turn.
But we had a chance to talk this afternoon, and you said it would be nice to play him and bring him back to you, and you did just that. And congratulations, a good game.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin Martin, he also has served notice here. He brought R.Howard back to him, Vic.
Congratulations to Kevin Martin and their win. Now it's time for the TSN Turning Point, and is brought to you by National Trust. And it comes from our feature game in this fourth round, Saskatchewan and British Columbia. Linda?
Gerry Kent for BC waited for his opportunities, and in the 8th end, nothing went right for him. He had to try a very difficult shot with his last rock, an angle raised to the 4-foot, almost to the button, not quite the right angle, and it's a steal of 2.
And Saskatchewan would go on to the win to beat British Columbia. The TSN Turning Point is brought to you by National Trust, helping you secure your future. We'll return with more from Cops Coliseum in just a minute.
From the Wild West to the mean streets, Clint Eastwood has enforced his own style of law. Now you can own his greatest movies with the Clint Eastwood collection from Time Life Video. As a gritty cop or gunslinging renegade, Clint delivers non-stop action and some of the most famous one-liners in screen history.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Start your collection with the outlaw Josie Wales for just $4.99 plus shipping and handling. Part philosopher.
Diane ain't much of a living boy.
Part sharpshooter. Josie goes out for revenge.
You gotta get mean. I mean plumb mad dog mean.
Other videos include Hang 'em High, plus Dirty Harry and Magnum Force. There's no commitment or minimum number to buy, and you keep only the videos you want. So call now for the outlaw Josie Wales. Here's how to order.
To order your Clint Eastwood video cassette, call 1-800-354-3800. That's 1-800-354-3800. Or send just $4.99 plus $4 shipping and handling to Clint Eastwood Collection, P.O. Box 600, Station R, Toronto, Ontario.
The 1991 Labatt Brier is brought to you by Labatt. Across Canada, beer at its best. Here are all the scores now in this fourth round of the Labatt Brier at Cops Coliseum. Newfoundland surprised Manitoba 6-4. Northern Ontario, Rick Lang comes back after losing in round 3, 8-3 over the Yukon Northwest Territories. New Brunswick win their first 8-5, beating Kevin Adams of the Glenmore in Montreal. PEI, a first-time winner, beat Nova Scotia in an extra end 6-5. Alberta 6-4 over Ontario, and in our feature game, Saskatchewan gets by